hold on. We have to do that again. Hey guys, I just did a whole ass intro without hitting the start button on YouTube, so you missed all that. Hi,
Oh no.
welcome to the TubCast. How's it going? Lilith's here. How are you doing, Lilith?
Hello, everybody.
And I know I do appreciate you coming here because you're currently quite sick, so we're gonna go easy on you.
Thank you. This is one of the days where I actually am sick.
And
Where
not
I
just like sleeping in or high or something.
no, I mean, like people are always saying like, "Oh, Liv, you sound like you're sick," and it's just like, no, it's just my nose shape. But today I actually am a bit under the weather.
Yeah. I have actually seen that a lot too, like in the comments. They're like, Lilith, you have a stuffed nose, and it's like, no, you have an Asian nose. That's pretty much it. Hold on. I'm gonna post this to all the social medias real quick. But yes, we're here. And Econoboi is here. Wait, Econoboi's muted. Econoboi, you here?
I am. I've been here. I've just been listening quietly.
Oh, you've been listening to the shit show?
I have.
So how have you been, Econoboi? I haven't had you on like a month or two. How's it going?
It's been going pretty well. The genesis of this event was you dev are a filthy centrist, which is basically a fascist. But your community very right wing, okay? And they get triggered whenever you bring pretty much anyone on. And so today is their chance, Dev. Their chance to debate someone who they've got a problem with. And I wanted to give them that opportunity. So if any of you guys aren't total cowards and want to debate someone in the marketplace of ideas, a la Dave Rubin, then now's your opportunity. I wanted to give you guys that chance to talk about high level ideas. Okay.
Big brain stuff, eh?
Let's go.
Now, probably not too big brain. I think I work with maybe 20% of the brain that a normal person does.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a pretty dumb guy, so.
You think we're all right wing, Econoboi? Says someone in the chat. To be fair,
I don't think you're all right wing. Okay, it's just the loudest voices oftentimes crowd out the more nuanced voices in any community. To be fair.
That is true. That is true. I mean, I know, Econoboi, you know a little bit about the drama that surrounded me recently with my own community. How I've done some videos making fun of the right, like I make fun of the left sometimes, and some people have gotten mad about it. There have been real criticisms in there, and fair enough. But some people have just actually gotten irrationally mad. And I've been like, what the fuck, guys? Like, Jesus. But at the same time, people are saying this is your most downvoted video. And it's like, well, it's got more downvotes than normal, but it has like 75% upvotes instead of 98. And it's like, well, I think most people are generally still cool with me as I am. You know what I mean?
You've changed, Dev. You've changed. Okay. And that's why you're a dying YouTuber, okay?
Oh shit. R.I.P.
Why aren't you rounding up all the Jews, Dev? Like a good based trad right wing person.
Listen, I am more than willing to round up all the Jewish women at least. And just keep them for myself.
But especially Ben Shapiro's sister.
Jesus, have you seen that her tits have gotten even bigger?
Have they?
Jesus.
How's that possible?
This is what happens when you venture into the right wing community. Talking about Ben Shapiro's sister.
Hold on. Are you an anti-Semite, Econoboi? What's the problem here?
That's what it is. You got me.
Okay, so we kind of conceived this. As basically, we're gonna bring people in. We have a presentation stage set up in my Discord. We'll bring people in who want to talk. Donators to the channel first, because I gotta give you guys something for donating, right? But if we've run through all the donators, and there's still people, let's say, in the main chat who want to jump in, then we'll do that too. Because why not? I guess we might as well just start, eh? So who? I see like 20 of you in here. Who wants to go?
Gotta raise your hand. Also, Dev, whenever
Mhm.
I run events like this, I give people 10 seconds to figure their mic out. People fumble around with their mic. You fumble around for more than 10 seconds, you're getting booted. All right?
Is that
I don't
how it
want to
works?
deal. Well, that's how I do it, because it's like, man, you guys gotta be we gotta be on point. Okay?
On point. All right. Here. Let's see. Wait. I should probably write down these names so I fucking know who's gone. Let me get a text file open here. Well, how am I supposed to do it? What am I supposed to do here? Shouldn't I
don't
write them
know.
down?
That's a good question.
Shouldn't I write them?
I mean, I think I want to say when you open up the chat, it'll have like maybe like in the order of when they raise their hand or something like that. I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've done a stage in my Discord. So
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'll just start at the top of the list then. So this I'm gonna bring in. Hold on. What the fuck is this name? Death Corps of Krieg. So we're just gonna start off with the Nazis. How does that sound?
well, I am on Twitch and YouTube, so we've got to keep it got to keep it a bit TOS friendly. So I'm you just be easy on the or be sensitive on the mute button, I guess, if anything happens.
Fair enough.
No slurs, fellas.
No, all the slurs.
Well,
Yeah,
it is your
just
channel.
come to a
Oh.
middle ground.
Just we'll negotiate on the
slur
We'll
slurs.
do
usage.
half the slurs.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna bring him in. Invite to speak. That's the button. There we go.
That is the button.
He's been invited. Hello, you
Hello?
fascist. What's up?
This isn't a fascist thing. This is a reference to something. Anyway,
Okay.
Hold on. Is the reference
first of all-
fascism?
No, the reference is Warhammer 40K.
Oh, that's right.
Kinda like,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome.
Anyway, first of all, I gotta say, I actually am pretty cool with you doing videos anti the right, since everyone needs to be criticized every once in a while.
Yep.
Econoboi, since I'm expecting everyone to ask like very serious questions, I want to start off with a bit of levity.
Okay.
What's your favorite Warhammer faction?
Ooh.
It's a great question. I've never played Warhammer, so I couldn't answer.
All right, well, that's kind of all I really got. Hope
Wait,
you
is
have a
that
good time
it?
with the video.
Is that it?
That's
Well, hold
it.
on.
I mean, I could ask him what he thinks of like corporatism or something, since you just made a video about it.
Well, hold on. I can actually answer the Warhammer question because I don't play 40K, but I did play tabletop, and I gotta say, the Skaven are pretty fun.
All right.
I know you didn't ask me, but the Adeptus Mechanicus.
Wait, that's from 40K.
You
isn't
know-
it? Yeah.
I mean, hey, cool. We got a tech boy in here, or tech girl. Sorry,
Yep. Hi.
I neglected that
The
for
flesh
a
is
moment
weak.
The flesh is
because I'm like so used to fucking talking about guys in 40K, so I just immediately went tech boy in my head.
That's okay.
See,
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, Econoboi,
okay.
corporatism. Answer the question. Dev just made a video about it.
Yeah. Oh. It wasn't he kind of about it, but yeah, I know what you mean.
The last video is Dev. Is he talking about your fascism video? I actually just finished it last night.
What do you think of
Is it
that,
the
by
same-
the way?
Yeah, that's what I was asking about, since he just talked about corporatism and fascism, and so you're an economist guy. I haven't really watched any of your streams, so I don't know too much about what your discipline is, but do you have an opinion on it, or do you just not have the knowledge base?
Yeah, I mean, so I think that what I garner from Dev's video is similar to what I've done in my own reading about fascism and fascist economics, which is that the definition has changed quite a bit over time, and it can also be somewhat nebulous. So, insofar as when we think about fascism, if we're talking about the sort of corporate ownership of production in line with like a state state priority or whatever it is, I think that if that's what fascism is, then I think every country actually falls into that definition, because every country has to follow regulations and stuff like that. I mean, so that's one thing. Do I think that sometimes sometimes can the government institute policy that leads to better outcomes than just a pure market system? I mean, of course that's the case. As far as the direct collaboration between corporations and the state to achieve like social outcomes, that's when I start to get a little bit uncomfortable.
All right.
How do you mean that second point?
Well, I mean, I think that there's a little bit of a difference between like the government saying, "Hey, you can't pollute the water," and the government saying, "Hey, you need to boost our government propaganda so that we so that we can transmit the mindset of racism and bigotry to our population or something like that." Right? It's like it's a little bit different. Or like if the government started like in a modern context, if the government started collaborating with like social media companies to specifically to censor some forms of speech and not others, like no, like let's I think it would probably be better to just leave leave that leave TOS to the companies, basically, is kind of what my thought
I
is.
mean, I guess wasn't there like one of like the senators like ran for president back in 2020 talking a lot about this type of stuff? So I don't know.
I'm not
I
sure.
just
know,
wanted I
maybe.
just wanted to ask about I just wanted to be based and just ask about Warhammer and then leave.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, thanks for asking about Warhammer.
Warhammer is cool.
All right. Well, there we go.
Very
Thanks, buddy.
expensive though.
Oh God, I've seen the prices, like because Sargon and Arch are both into like Warhammer miniatures, right? And Jesus, the price. It's like you can 3D print a little bit of plastic for pennies in the dollar, and they'll charge you so much for it. It's ridiculous. Okay, I'm gonna bring in the next guy on the list.
Yes,
That
but
is,
very expensive plastic.
yeah. I'm gonna bring in Zakanuva. All right, make sure you're ready, buddy. You're next on the list. Here we go. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi there. I'd like to apologize firsthand. I'm not used to public speaking, and I as you can see, I have a bit of a stutter. So I hope that's not a problem for you guys.
Oh, don't
No
worry, man.
worries.
I have a stutter
I stutter
too.
constantly, and I
Yeah.
still do.
I edit it out all the time, but I stutter too. I do have one thing to ask though. Are you a fucking furry?
Sonic fan, actually. No, it's
It's the same thing.
Yeah, the profile pic is from a friend of mine. It's using but the exact design isn't quite accurate to what I currently have in mind for for this character, but that's not important. It's just the main thing is the character's supposed to be like an American badger because I'm from Wisconsin and that's the state animal. That was the main inspiration for that character.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
But yeah, that's pretty much the story behind that. It's
Badgers are fucking badass animals.
Wait,
thank
are
you.
they? What
Well,
makes
they
it-
are.
yeah, there's like 3 different variations of badgers that I know of. There's the American badger, the one mine's based off. There's like the European badger that you see like in the Fantastic Mr. Fox. There's the European badger in there, the black and white one, and there's also like the African honey badger, the really badass one.
Okay.
The
Sounds
ones
good.
that can take like just poisons upon poison.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway,
Steak.
yeah, okay. So getting to the more serious topic, like
Yep.
So I do have a couple questions for Econoboi. I'm not exactly as like an expert in like economic stuff and whatnot. I'm still sort of like a layman in most things, to be fair. But so like my first question for Econoboi, are you familiar with a fellow by the name of Peter Schiff at all?
I am. I've talked about him a couple times on my channel at least.
What's his
Okay,
deal? I don't know who that is.
He's a kooky guy.
Is he?
That's the nicest way that I can describe him.
What does he
I-
believe? What's going on with him?
He's like a hyper libertarian kind of like finance manager. He's like he basically I think something that I've said about Peter Schiff is that he's predicted 500 of the last 2 recessions. Because he pretty much
All right.
he pretty much thinks the economy is going to collapse every other week. And it turns out sometimes there is indeed a recession. And so that's kind of my summation of Peter Schiff. But maybe Zakanuva might have a more charitable opinion.
All right,
Well,
what's going on?
I was mainly asking because I don't really know. I literally haven't seen anything from Econoboi aside from his appearances on Dev's live streams and whatnot, and I only really know about Peter Schiff because he was interviewed by another fellow that I've been following by the name of Canadian Prepper. And whatnot. He interviews a whole bunch of different people from a wide variety of different topics. I was mainly asking about that to get like if he was familiar. And there's a specific reason because I just to make sure we're on the same page. You're not in favor of the gold standard, right?
I am not. No.
Could you, like, just to refresh my memory, could you, explain why that is?
Yeah. So the gold standard just isn't really necessary, right? At least not presently. I think that the gold standard in general, right? The idea is just that your currency has some sort of staying, some stay value, let's say. And I get that. The problem is that the implications of the gold standard are pretty rough in the sense that you end up with a very rigid sort of financial system where you have huge periods of deflation, huge periods of inflation. It's not even necessarily the case that you end up with what do you call it, a powerful currency anyway, because you can always import gold and you can also mine it yourself if you have government control of mining or regulation in that regard. And there was even a paper that I retweeted about the other day from the NBER that said that the gold standard, because you're reliant, essentially the transaction of money is reliant on, at least to some degree, the supply of gold in the economy. It just leads to a suboptimal allocation of goods, right? And so there's a lot of reasons why the gold standard is pretty bad and not really preferable to a system where the government just has a fiat currency and controls inflation with the Federal Reserve and fiscal policy.
Okay. So like your stance is that like the status quo that we currently have is fine, right?
Well, yeah, like the governing of price level and currency is, I would say, is fine. Yeah.
So like my a big question I have about that is, well, what do you do about like when if inflation gets out of control, like we start getting into like hyperinflation, like what's like what seems to be on the horizon at the very least, if it hasn't already happened already?
Well, we're definitely not in hyperinflation. Hyperinflation is when you have, inflation in the thousands of percent and people start like abandoning your currency because it's so inflated. And that absolutely hasn't happened with the US dollar. It's not even close to happening, right? I mean, the US is still issuing bond packages and people are still buying them because there's just a lot of faith in the US dollar. But to be fair, the US, people say, "Oh, it's the reserve currency." The same thing's happening, with euros and with Canadian dollars and Japanese yen. The inflation crisis is happening all across the world, and these large developed countries with sort of investor confidence are still able to issue bonds, and people still believe in their currency. I would encourage anyone to look at a graph of inflation across time, and what you'll see, at least in the gold standard era, right, is not, at least in my view, particularly stable prices. And in terms of your question of how to manage inflation when I guess it gets out of hand, I mean, I think that what the government's doing right now makes sense to me, right? Curtailing deficit spending and raising interest rates, to me, are the ways that you would manage inflation when it gets too high. And that's what the government is doing today, and that's what most of the governments across the world are doing. There's some exceptions, like Turkey wants to, they're actually lowering interest rates, or they're keeping interest rates very, very low. But that's why inflation there is like 100%, whereas here it's about 8%. And I think the EU, for a number of reasons, has been hesitant to raise interest rates because of their supply crisis in relation to the Ukraine war. But they've even started to raise rates and talk about raising rates more. So to me, what the government is doing right now is probably the proper course of action.
And Okay, so what then? From if I'm understanding this correctly, the whole fiat currency works because it's everyone's taking it on faith that the fiat currencies just work. Am I understanding that correctly? It's
Well, I mean, kind of, right? I mean, faith, but it's also faith in like real material power and assets and history, right? So, like, in theory, yes, right? The thing that makes your dollar valuable is the fact that people have the faith that this dollar is like a stable unit of currency. But, that faith isn't born out of nowhere, right? I mean, the United States is the reserve currency, right? We're a very powerful, wealthy economy with, a pretty good governing state when it comes to monetary discipline and fiscal discipline. So, the answer is yes, but again, that faith has to come from somewhere, right?
and what happens when that faith isn't there anymore, or it gets challenged in some way?
Yeah, I mean, if faith were to like fundamentally erode in your fiat currency, that's when you'd have, you'd have banking runs. You would probably have some sort of alternate currency. I say dollarization because it's usually the U.S. currency that gets used when the faith in the currency falls away. But if the U.S. currency itself were to fall away, then people would start using other currencies that they felt would be more similar, or people would start using sort of like personal lines of credit to transact. Things like that. Basically, what you're seeing happen in Venezuela.
Okay, the let's see the. Give me a moment. I lost my train of thought here.
No worries. You can always come back later.
Let's.
Here, hold on. While you think of it, Econoboi, you suggested that I make a stage invite. I gotta figure out how to do that real quick. Create an
Yeah,
invite.
it should just be, create an invite from the stage, and then you can post it in the chat and just pin that message in YouTube. Someone was asking, like, how do I do the,
Let's
how do I, like,
see
get
if
in
this
here?
works. Here, I think that link should do it. Let's hope.
Yeah. And just pin that so that people, there you go, exactly right. So,
Then again, this isn't
there
the
you go.
donator room, right? So if you haven't donated, you're shit out of luck. Ha 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 ha. Okay.
Oh, wait, to get on the stage, do you have to donate?
Yeah. Well, these are all my donators. These are all like the $5 club members. I figure we will bring people in from outside if we've exhausted all these guys.
I see. So there's a bit of a waiting room if you if you haven't donated yet.
Yes. I think it's fair.
We'll figure that out though.
I mean, we're doing this is kind of like a community thing, right? So why not?
Wow, capitalist.
Yes.
Greed.
Giga Chad.
Unbelievable. Well, Zach Nuvo, do you have any other questions?
Mm, okay, so like, you mentioned how in that hypothetical scenario where where alternate forms of you mentioned stuff like opening individual lines of credit or alternate currencies. Like, what about bartering? Because like I've noticed that there's quite a few different in the gold market. I've noticed that there's a lot of different ways to try to make it so that gold is much more easy to barter with instead of just like the usual gold coins and whatnot. There's like Peter Schiff, his whole one of the things that he's promoting is a type of gold ingots that can like be like broken up like a chocolate bar into little like 1 gram squares. That's one option that he promotes specifically. And
Well, yeah. I mean,
and
he's a big
another-
gold investor, right? So you gotta
Right.
take that with a grain of salt.
yeah. There's also one of the other ones that's been floating around the prepping community, especially as of late, has been the gold back. It's basically just like a gold note that's been made to like in like fractions of a troy ounce. You could actually hand them out like a dollar bill in certain states that have been that have legalized using them as like a form of not necessarily legal tender, but they recognize them as sort of a bartering form of trade.
Well, look,
Uh,
I'll put it like this: a world where the U.S. dollar is worthless is probably a world where gold isn't really worth much either. Because a world where the U.S. dollar is worthless is probably a world where guns and bullets are going to be the most valuable thing that you can have. I mean, the implications of having a worthless U.S. dollar are probably so far and wide and so potentially disastrous for the global world order and stability is hard to imagine. But people like Peter Schiff, I think, are just, I mean, look, they're just to some extent taking advantage of people who believe in gold as this tool for prepping and barter in a world where we don't have the U.S. dollar anymore. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, maybe, right? But I just don't think that that's really very practical because, again, right, in a world where the U.S. dollar is valueless, the most valuable thing you can invest in probably isn't gold, right? It's probably things like water filtration systems and solar arrays and guns and stuff like that, right? I mean, it's not going to be gold. I mean, in that world, right, food would be just as valuable a bartering tool as gold, right? I mean,
Yeah, that's
Oh,
actually
tax.
yeah that actually is what the folks in the prepping community, at least the ones that I've been following, they do say that like if things actually go like full shit hits the fan and all that, it's first priority for what you want to stockpile is food, water, fuel to keep yourself warm and whatnot, and
Ammunition.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, ammunition to a lesser extent because like if you barter with ammunition, that could just be used on you to take whatever whatever you have. So like
So hold
yeah,
on,
the
we're
first
talking like Grand Theft Auto, where like, you have sex with a hooker, then you kill her, get your money back.
I suppose so. I'm it's more along the lines of like full like Mad Max, Fallout, full blown up full apocalypse scenario. That's like what would that's more more along the lines of what's being the thought process for planning this stuff ahead.
That's when you
But
keep
yeah, that
bottle caps around.
yeah,
So
that's I suppose so. But
here,
yeah,
let me hop in here for a minute. I just do want to say, listen to all preppers listening to this. You know how you might watch like a Lauren Southern video or something, or maybe you watch Ben Shapiro, and they run an advertisement where they advertise buying gold. Keep in mind, they're selling you gold, but they're taking your U.S. dollars for it. All right, so why are they saying that U.S. dollars will be useless? Give me all your U.S. dollars. Come on. I
well,
think the
you gotta
American dollar's fine, to be honest.
yeah. I suppose it's
Well,
more
it's
along
not
the lines of
fine if things are still like we're still having like the highest inflation rate in like recent history.
I mean, yeah, but here's the thing: the inflation rate is what, like 9%. I recently, maybe within a
It
week,
was like
I've read
9.6.
yeah. So I've read an article on a country that was actually dealing with hyperinflation. They had like 5 million% inflation. All right, so I think we can deal with 9.
okay.
It's
But
like,
yeah,
Yeah, not.
My bank account can't.
I think the idea is just that 8.5% inflation is recoverable, right? But 5 million% inflation is like, yeah, I mean you're seriously like fucked, right?
Yeah.
You probably got to replace like your whole entire currency.
Mhm.
So
Okay,
yeah,
Zaka, thanks for being here, man. But I think you've been on for about 10 minutes. I think that's about fair to rotate someone else in. Do you have anything else to ask real
that's
quick?
true. Um, uh, I I don't think there's anything else. I pretty much covered all those things that I was mainly thinking about when I first was getting ready. I don't think there is anything else I really have to contribute. Like
Alright.
I said, I'm not really an expert on any of this stuff.
Mhm.
I'm sort of a layperson in all this.
So am I,
But
man. So
yeah,
am I.
yeah,
yes, but thank you for letting me for letting me speak and ask questions. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Um, let's see here. Do I have to? Here we go. That's the button. All right. Okay. Actually, while he was talking, I thought of something, Econoboi. You know, the most richest man in human history.
like in terms of purchasing power or in terms of actual just amount of dollars.
Um, I it wasn't dollars. It was before dollars. It was Mansa Musa, the West
Yeah.
African guy. Yeah, and
No, that's what I was gonna say. It's like that guy's like the most rich person in like in an adjusted value sense, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, that was like what was it? This was like hundreds of years ago or whatever. So the technology wasn't great, even if you were the richest person. But yeah,
Right.
that was like the number one guy.
So here's the thing. My argument against the gold standard at this point is basically Mansa Musa, because he had so much fucking gold that when he went on his pilgrimage to Mecca and he just spent a bunch of money along the way, he completely devalued gold across Africa. So you can still introduce enough gold into the economy that the value of gold tanks. It's not like gold is this eternal source, this eternal container of value that never changes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, that's kind of my point, though, right? Is that like gold is not. I mean, there's not a lot of reason to think that gold would be more stable. I mean, you can just look at the price of gold like across time, right? There's not a lot of reason to think that gold's like inherently more stable than like a developed institution managing currency with interest rates, right? And if anything, again, there's an argument for the opposite. So
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. And actually, I do want to, before we grab the next person, I just want to ask you a clarifying question. So you did watch my video on the 3 forms of fascism, right? Would you say I'm a big
I
brain
did.
now?
I mean, I thought it was a good video. Like I said, I think it captured what's been true about fascist literature for a while, which is that, if you put everything that called itself or could be considered fascism in one bucket, it's not. You get some loose themes, right? But it's harder to determine like a cohesive fascist narrative across history. And so I mean, I thought that was it was good that you captured that, because to me that's like my main takeaway from like fascist economics or fascist government is that it kind of depends, but it's also kind of like I know fascism when I see it. So
Yeah.
um,
At the same time, that you could probably say the same thing about liberals and conservatives, even socialists. There's so many different flavors of socialist, and they're all calling each other not real socialist. I think that kind of like the edges of every ideology seems to be blurry, but there's still something at the core of it.
yeah, that's true. That's true. I think socialism has been more coherent over time, just because again, like, right, when we think of socialist projects across history or theorized socialist projects across history, um, it's some form of collective ownership, right? Whether that means state ownership or cooperative structure ownership or sovereign wealth fund ownership or something like that, right? But at least in terms of economics, right? When we think of fascism, I mean, it's a little bit all over the place.
Yeah.
The most
Socialists
coherent definition
also
I've
very
seen.
much enjoy itemizing their ideology in ways that, like, in all these books, to make it seem more coherent. And, like,
Yeah,
they have different schools of thoughts of what,
yeah, that's
like,
true as well.
Marxian socialism, like, Leninism,
Yeah,
Marxism, and all
that's true.
sorts of stuff.
It's
But at
all
the very
cancer
least,
to me.
They're
though, the
all kind of,
constant
yeah,
is collective
well,
ownership.
fair enough, but they do, like, you get my point.
Yeah, I do. Are you
You
suffering
got
right
me.
now, Lilith? Jeez, I'm sorry.
I I am fine. I just need some water at most. I got the coof, of course.
Go
So
get some tea or something. Um, Actually, so I bring this up though. I bring this up for one specific reason. So,
ew,
Okay.
I don't drink tea.
oh really? Jeez. Okay. Econoboi, listen. So
Yeah.
I mentioned in the video that one of the things that George Sorel wrote about was how the bourgeois would use money printing to siphon value from the proletariat to themselves.
Yeah.
Does that not sound like something that's currently happening in some ways?
Well, I mean, so not kind of not really. I mean, I think that the way that he's framing it is more has ulterior motives behind it. I think that if you asked a lot of economists at this point, what do they think of things like quantitative easing? Quantitative easing, what is it, right? It's the Federal Reserve printing money electronically, transferring it to banks and buying assets off banks' balance sheets to increase liquidity in the economy, right? The idea is that oh, increase liquidity, increase lending. Oftentimes it can save capital markets, right? So it's like, hey, if you've got like a collapsing securities market for mortgages, that could lead to, further collapses in the entire housing market and stuff like that. It's like, oh, that's pretty bad. And so, um, does it do some of what it purports to do? Yeah, but does it raise like broad-based inflation? No. But what does it do, right? Quantitative easing. It definitely raises asset prices. And if we think about if we care about income inequality, which many conservatives pretend to care about, many liberals and socialists actually do care about, then
I would say the socialists also
something.
pretend in a lot of the cases. But yes, I know what you
I
mean.
mean, hey, look, I think when you talk about killing the landlords and taking all their stuff and distributing it to the workers, I mean, say what you want about that policy, say what you want about socialists, but to say that they're pretending about caring about income inequality, I'm not sure is a fair criticism. The point is just to say that
I think it is. I think it is because I think they intend to become the new landlords.
yeah, it's a crypto landlordism, I guess.
Yes. Yes.
But the point,
But-
though, is just to say that I think that if you got a policy that basically raises asset values and doesn't really trickle down to broad-based inflation that you'd want during a recession, then you've got an argument for a policy that's probably more bad than good insofar as income inequality is concerned. So, long way to answer your question is that kind of, but I think that whoever the guy that wrote that probably had much more wide-reaching implications for saying something like that. So,
Fair enough. Ready for the next person?
I'm always ready, Dev. Let's get these fucking right-wing Nazi community members of yours in this chat.
Right back.
Yep, no problem. I hope you feel better with whatever you're doing. Oof, I feel bad for her. She's actually more sick than she lets on. Let's bring in Harry. Is it Harry the martial artist? Let's bring him in next. He's next on the list. Harry the martial arts nerd. Hello.
Hello, nerds.
Dude, is that
Hello,
Reiner
nerds.
in your profile?
Yes, it is. And I am the guy who has given you a ton of super chats saying that I'm going to do a politics of Attack on Titan,
Nice.
and kind
Based.
of like what Sargon did. The problem is, the iPad I was doing it on died at one point, and I lost all the information. So you might be able to beat me on that one. The other thing as
RIP.
well, I tried redoing it recently, and my iPad literally does not have the data storage capable of actually doing it, because I was
that
doing
sucks,
like
man.
the politics of episode by episode.
Oh.
Anyway, though, yeah. So like the joke was when I first started doing it that I'm gonna start with season 4 and then work way back because it was season 4 is the most political, and then
Yeah,
season
it
3
is.
is the least, second most, and season
That's where
2 is the
everyone's wearing armbands in season 4 and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a case of I've actually had a few debates with people of like, oh, it's meant to represent Japan made to feel guilty about their history. It's like, well, I mean, I know your arguments and everything on that one. No, not you specifically. I'm just like saying like in terms of past. But when the history of Attack on Titan is quite literally the British Empire copied and pasted, but Titans added. I'm sorry, but. No, it's literally copy and paste to the same point where I think it's Grisha in a flashback. It's like a case of they went forth and genocided everyone, and then literally like a debate with the British Empire is if they killed everyone, why are there still people here? It's like can't say that. That's politically incorrect. It's like shut up then.
Yeah.
Shut
Yeah.
up.
I know what you mean. I think like the final season's conflict is basically just two fascist states fighting each other. There's different types of fascists.
It's not that. It's the I'm sorry to tell you this because again, like the whole like studying the politics of it.
Yeah.
Willie Tybur's speech. He gives like a speech and people are crying and spoiler by the way, Aaron has seen the entire timeline, so he's already seen this, and it's the reason.
Oh God,
why
you're spoiling all of it.
Look, if you've not seen season 4, fuck you. Is my response basically.
Okay.
Aaron has seen the whole timeline, so he knows the future, and he's trying to actually change the future because it turns out if you can't pick up on the symbolism of the opening song, Aaron doesn't want to kill people. He doesn't want to do the rumbling. But if you watch Willie Tybur's speech again, there are people crying tears of joy at a, oh yeah, we're not going to give these people any chance of surrender. We're just going to go there, kill every last man, woman, and child as they beg and plead for an opportunity to surrender, and fuck them, we don't care. By the way,
Mhm.
also as well, this is every nation in the world against effectively England, and you've gathered
Based.
all of the politicians, and you've gathered all of the military generals of all of the world in one place. Well, I can't really reason with you if you're going to cry tears of joy at the idea of genociding my one country. So I guess if you gathered all these people in one place, I'm going to take advantage of this. And
Yes.
Eren never wanted to do this, but what other option does he actually have?
I know what you
How
mean, I know
can
what
you
you mean.
reason?
I know what you mean.
It's not that he's a villain. It's that
Like, no,
I'll
he's
stop
still a
shooting you.
villain. No. He still kills 80% of the world's population by the end of it. Even if you have a good reason to do that, you're still a villain.
Well, the answer is don't try to kill an entire race worth of people, and then Eren doesn't want to stamp on you. So I'm sorry to tell you this, but the answer is calm down and stop trying to genocide Eren.
Hold on.
I mean,
I will say that I will say, since we should probably talk about the actual, not just Attack on Titan for the next 3 fucking years. I will because Econoboi is also here, by the way. But
Attack on Titan
but-
is dumb.
fuck you.
No,
Okay.
it's not. It's literally though. I love it where it's a case of I know that we've been trying to genocide the Eldian race for all of eternity, and just the first scene of the series is just an attempt of genocide with the Colossal Titan. But you can't do that to us. It's okay when we do it. How could you be so evil and use the same tactics
goodness.
we use, but be good at it? How could you
A
do this to
TV
us?
show, a TV
You lower the
show,
standards first.
Mhm.
a TV show talking or thematically taking themes of imperialism and exploitation. How unique.
I will say that I'm gonna out Lilith right now. She's not even here, I don't think, but I'm gonna out her from the closet as being a complete flock simp.
The thing is he didn't really do much wrong with the information he had.
I
To be
don't know.
fair.
I have a feeling overthrowing the legitimate government of parody was probably pretty bad.
No,
Look,
but
the
one
best
thing
anime is
actually
Rick
we
and
want
Morty,
to,
guys.
to say though. One thing.
Okay,
I
hold on.
want to say,
No. Enough anime.
Go on,
Let's get to the actual question.
No, it wasn't anime. It wasn't anime.
Okay. Go.
Rick and Morty is the best anime.
Oh my fucking god, we found the retard.
Okay,
No,
hold
but,
on. What is your economics question for Econoboi? What's up?
Oh,
Or
I
any
don't have an
question.
economics question. I was really bored, saw that there was something going on, and just said.
Are you
That's
fucking
fair.
kidding me?
No,
That's
I'm
fair,
not
Harry.
kidding you. I never fucking lie. Fuck you. If you
There's
can't
nothing
put
to
up with the
do
fact
in
I
the
don't
UK.
lie,
Sorry about that.
everything
Hey,
has to do with the
Lilith,
UK.
Lilith, tell us all about how
Hi.
much you love Flock. Go.
No, I actually do want to tell you something though. Essentially just to clarify something that happened earlier with the first guy who was on here.
Okay.
But if you want to just go on
Well,
about
you-
Flock, then I guess I'll just stop
Wait,
peeing in this
what?
bathtub.
No, you might as well say
Why
what
are
you're
we
gonna say.
talking
Go ahead.
about
Go ahead.
Flock?
Because you're a hidden fascist, Lilith. That's what it is.
Look, I just think when the world hits you, you gotta hit the world back really hard.
Oh no! People started using. Oh no! Why are they using nukes on us after we nuked them first? How could they do this to us?
How could they? But all the world has done was try to form an alliance to try to genocide Eldians. Oh no!
Oh no! Why are they? Why is Eren
thing
trying to
they
genocide
warned
us
would
after we started
happen would
this?
actually happen? How
Listen,
could this happen?
it's okay though because the Eldians are white.
No, that's why the Eldians have to win.
Oh, okay. All right. So, what did you actually want to bring up, man? What's up?
Okay, something I wanted to bring up because my girlfriend is a bit it's a nerdy tomboy type, and the reason why I bring
Based.
oh no, someone's just
God.
typed in the chat. Oh no, it's like okay. First off, you don't know where I'm going with this. Hold off the oh no, and then I promise you, we'll see if we get there. The guy who brought up the Krieg guy, immediately your reaction was, "Oh, this sounds fascist." It's like, no, the thing with
Also,
I got over
Eldians
into
are
Warhammer.
more like Jews than anything.
Kinda, yeah.
Kind of.
But anyway.
I got
No more Attack on Titan.
I got
No
my
more.
I got my girlfriend into Warhammer, so I basically just thought I'd just give you guys just the
Fucking
no
Warhammer,
on this.
God damn it.
No. I'm being brief. This the whole
Okay.
joke of Warhammer is that every different race and faction is something that's taken to the biggest extreme. So orcs are basically football British hooligans, and basically the whole joke is, what if you take that to the biggest extreme, humanly possible, and you
Mm-hmm.
get orcs.
Yep.
Krieg is basically just, what if you take trench digging World War II Germans and you take it to the biggest extreme possible, and they gas chambered themselves.
Oh, that might have been okay.
No, as in, like, they gas chambered themselves in a civil war on their planet, regretted it so much, and wanted to come back into the Empire, and so they fucking begged and pleaded and said, we'll throw ourselves as much into the gas chambers as possible, just please let us come back and worship the holy god emperor. And so,
Okay.
no, but every faction is some weird exaggeration of something. The ecclesiarchy is basically just
More
nuns with
Warhammer
guns.
talk about all the races. Give me a rundown of all
Oh
of
god.
them
No,
individually.
okay, listen, man. We
Please.
gotta do.
Please.
People are here for
need
something
it.
else.
The Tau, the Tau are
Yes.
effectively just Gundams. The Eldar are effectively just ancient Japan, but with modern, over-the-top sci-fi technology. Because, okay, mix
Yeah.
and match however you want to. The Imperium of Man, and this is going to be kind of funny, they are unironically fascist, sort of. But if you don't be fascist and control your citizens and basically be a massive dick, people might start worshipping the evil gods, and suddenly now people are, like, kids are being ripped apart and eaten alive by demons. Oh, the abortion clinic is now basically just being used as people just ripping off the skin of babies and eating them alive. Oh, maybe we do need to be fascist to stop people doing this because they can be corrupted by demons. And so it sounds horrible until you realize, yeah, no, if you don't control people harshly, you get problems.
Wow.
Because it's just, the whole point of it is that everything is just really shit in the future. And
To
it's
be
going to be
fair,
more shit.
I do recall that from Warhammer 40k. I know that you don't know the setting at Econoboi. So the TLDR is that the universe, like the other aliens in the universe, are so overwhelmingly hostile to humanity. There's no hope with peace with any of them, and the only way humanity survives is by being fascist. So it's
Effectively, yeah.
fascism or being completely genocided. It's like, pick one. It's like, well, I guess we'll be fascists then. Okay.
Listen, we didn't have to be racist to these knife ears, but they started this, so they're going to get put in the fucking dirt until they learn their place.
Based.
Yeah, fair enough.
Elves are only good for breeding, understand?
You have to
Okay,
find
listen.
the
I
convoy,
got to
guys.
bring in somebody who actually has a question for our guest. Okay. So
No, you need to annoy him more by getting random shit
More
like me.
Warhammer.
okay.
Okay.
No, thanks for being here, man. I appreciate all the super
See
chats.
you around, and sorry for being a retard on Discord and needing your help to learn. Like, my girlfriend's worse than me on Discord, and anyone who knows me personally and has seen
Mhm.
the shit show that happened recently will know. But it's like, just click on the thing and it works. It's like, oh my god, I'm that bad at using a Discord.
All right, man. See you later. Thanks.
See ya.
Beautiful.
And there. Yeah. All right.
Beautiful, man.
All right, Colin, let's talk about some Warhammer for a while. You and I.
I'm honestly fine talking about anything, just not Warhammer or anime.
Mm.
Warhammer and anime are for nerds.
What if
Short
they
Fat
make a
Talking.
Warhammer anime?
I'm surprised it's not already in development, frankly, now that you mentioned it.
All right. I'm going to grab the next guy on the list. It's Mr. Spike Fay. Hope you're ready, buddy. Here we go. Click.
Spike Fay.
Spike Fay.
Oh no, he must have gone AFK, what with all the Warhammer talk. He's gone now.
Are they-
Oh, he's
hello.
there.
Hi.
Hello.
There they are.
Hi.
Oh shit.
What's up?
Okay, I'm new to the whole like event thing, so I had to actually click accept. But anyways,
What's up?
so Dev,
Yeah.
you came out as a fascist.
I mean,
This
about
is
a dozen
true.
times so far.
I'm just messing with you. But in actual seriousness, is there like a combination of the two ideologies of communism and fascism?
Yeah,
What is it?
it's just communism. Communism is fascism.
It's just fascism. Fascism is communism.
Yeah.
Wait, but they're against one another hardcore.
No, that's because they're dumb.
No, they
Oh.
loop back around eventually.
Oh.
Yeah, the political spectrum on the edges, it just kind of like it just folds over a piece of paper and then goes back around.
Oh shit.
That's right.
Yeah.
Anyways, I have another question. So,
What's
these
up?
are gonna. What is the What is the worst of the two ideologies? Assuming that they're not looping around communism or fascism. Sorry for the questions.
Go ahead,
Fascism, for sure.
Econoboi. What do you think?
I mean, I think it's definitely fascism, right? If we think about communism, what it actually is a classless, stateless, moneyless society.
That sounds
I'd much rather
awful.
live in that.
I wouldn't.
God, I'd much rather live there than under a fascist state. My goodness.
Well, okay, here's my argument, okay? I think a fascist state would be easier for liberals to overthrow than a communist one.
But why do you think that?
It has historically been the case that fascist states are just more unstable long term.
Oh.
No, but if we're talking about actual communism, right? Classless, stateless, moneyless society.
Okay.
Right? Well, I mean,
versus actual
that
fascism,
sounds-
I guess.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right? Is like
Yeah.
if we're talking about, fascism versus actual communism, then I mean, it seems like a liberal would be much more easily able to navigate a communist society than a fascist one.
Well, keep in mind that both of them promise this utopian state where everyone's happy. So if we're talking actual, what if we're all happy being fascists or communists?
Well, yeah, but if at that point though, it's like splitting hairs, right? If we're talking like, Maoist China versus like fascism, well, I mean, Maoist China basically is fascism, right? So I mean, it doesn't, it's not quite so different, I don't think.
Well, I guess the issue then, Econoboi, is that we're talking about like specific fascist countries versus a theorized communism that will never exist. And like the theory is always going to look better
Well,
than
that's
the
what I'm saying.
actuality, but that's
that's why I think we're splitting hairs, right? Like, it's like, would you rather live in Maoist China or Nazi Germany? It's like, okay, well, I guess
like you would both die in both of them.
Right. I mean, I guess at that point, I guess specifically, I might pick Nazi Germany because I might be able to trick them into thinking I'm German for long enough to like escape. But I don't think I could trick them into thinking I'm Chinese. And
yeah,
Maoist
fair enough. Also,
China.
wait, are you Jewish, Econoboi? Or are you a member of the master race? Or sorry, the chosen race? It's a different race.
I am an incredibly like Nazi Aryan looking person. Blonde hair, blue eyes, the whole
really?
the whole 9 yards.
Damn.
That's what I'm saying. If I lived in Nazi Germany, I think I'd be able to like navigate escaping a little bit better than if I lived in Maoist China. But I mean, both of them would be pretty rough to live in. I think if I could choose to be born
what if they
in either
a ruler up to your nose and start measuring it?
Well, if
what
I
if they start
I could
measuring
choose
your skull shape?
If I could choose to be born in either Nazi Germany or Maoist China, I would pick Maoist China. I think that's probably the better society to be born into than Nazi Germany.
I don't know about that because the Nazis only lasted like 12 years. You could live through that and then come out the other side.
Well, what if you were born like any of the number of demographics that the Nazis just fucking killed? Like, your probability gets so much worse, I think.
Yeah, that sucks. But at the same time, in China, they just killed everyone.
Well,
everyone died.
Well, but at the same time, though, that was just like I think there's a difference between like just gross mismanagement of resources, which is kind of what Mao is guilty of, versus like the state actually specifically targeting huge swaths of minority populations, right? I think that is a little bit different.
It is different, but at the same time, way more people died in Mao's China. Way more people died. And yeah, they still targeted some ethnic minorities there, but still.
As a percentage of the population, the Nazis killed a way higher percentage of their population than China did.
Are you sure?
Right. I think I'd be willing to take that bet because Germany today is like 50 million people. Back under Hitler, call it 40 million. I mean, but China's had like almost 1 billion people. I mean, throughout the Great Leap
Let me
Forward,
see.
So.
What was Germany's
whenever
population?
Anything happens in historical China, millions of people has to die.
Yeah, this seems to be how seems to be the case.
That's true. There's just a lot of people in China, right? So
hold on.
That's not in defense of Maoist China, by the way.
Lilith loves Maoist China. Don't let her lie to you.
Actually, no.
I actually do not.
Here's the thing. Oh, this is actually interesting. The German population of World War II era Germany was 80 million in
That high,
1939.
really?
In 1939, yeah.
Okay, so 80 million. So I
Divided
think
by
it was like
6.
12 million.
Well, 6 Jews.
Well, that was
6
only
million
the
Jews,
Jews,
right?
though.
Yeah, okay,
But I
fair
think it
enough.
was like 12 million people prosecuted during the Holocaust. So that was 15% of the population. And go to China population.
Well, actually, a lot of those people
What
came
is
from other countries, like conquered countries, though. That's going to muddy the waters a bit. Because like a lot of Jews came from
well,
like Poland and other places they conquered.
well, yeah, but we're talking about being born into the regime, right? So you might be. That's what I'm saying. Like you might be unlucky enough to have been born in like as a Polish Jew or something, and then
Yeah.
like, well, you're totally fucked, right? So I don't know.
Okay. Let me just look this up. Population of China during the Great Leap Forward. Because I know like Mao across his entirety killed like 100 million people. Like a ridiculous amount of people died under Mao.
The 100 million is like a propaganda number, though. I think
Are
that
you sure?
I think what the historians agree on is something like 30 to 40 million. Like I don't think 100 million is like a
Well,
broadly accepted number
hold on.
in the history books.
15 to 55 million between 58 and 62, but then higher with the other years. Gee, that's a
Okay,
big
so
fucking variable. 15 to 55.
what was the population during that time, though?
Okay,
So
population
that's 55
during
million higher end.
population of China. Let's see.
Yeah, it was like 45 to 65 million. From all.
The Chinese population in 1950, which is around the time, was 500 million, 543 million.
So it looks like on the upper end, Mao killed 11%. So I was correct, Dev. Okay.
Are you sure?
The percentage of the population killed during the Nazi occupation was higher than under Mao. Not to say either society is great. I'm just saying
Econoboi comes out as pro Mao.
If you had to pick
Oh,
one
no.
society to be born into, your chance of dying, I think, is higher in Nazi Germany than it is in. I mean, that's not to mention, that's just the Holocaust. Also, Nazi Germany was like constantly warring with everyone. So, what percentage of people died not just from the Holocaust, but from all the fucking wars Nazi Germany was getting into? Like, your chances of dying, I think, are a lot lower in Maoist China than in Nazi Germany for a number of reasons. So.
Well, there's also other things to consider though, because you're right that if you were born as a German, you'd probably be better off. But there was no such benefit for the Chinese. At the same time, you're probably much more likely to escape to the West if you were born German rather than Chinese. So maybe
No, but that's why I said if me currently Econoboi was transferred to one of these societies, I'd probably pick Nazi Germany because I think I'd have an easier time escaping, right?
Yeah, you could roll the dice on that and see.
Right, but if we're talking about no, you have to choose a society to be born into, and you're just like a random demographic of one of these societies. I mean, the answer to me is it's obviously Maoist China, right? I mean, because again, Nazi Germany, you could be born as any of the number of like the half of people that they considered like lower class or inferior or whatever. You might have been born with a disability or born into a Jewish family or gay or something like whatever the situation might be, and then all of a sudden you're completely fucked. So.
Right. And anything else, Spike, or is that enough of a derailment for you?
Even if you are.
Well, I mean,
even if
I
you
just
are,
had
like,
those two
top
questions,
rank.
and I just want to know the answers. But you boys answered them nicely, so I'll let you
Or
pick
quote,
someone
unquote.
else now.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Spike.
All right.
Who's next? Dev.
So, what were you saying, Lilith?
I said even if you are like considered like the chosen people in terms of Nazi Germany, like if, even if things are going great as like part of the master race, you're still gonna be fucked in a few years when your country loses a war.
Yeah. When the Americans roll in and take over.
It's not the Americans rolling in that's the problem. It's the Soviets.
Oh fuck yeah, they were brutal.
The shit that happened.
Yeah, I've read some of that. Yeah.
All the forced hugs. That was
forced hugs.
Yeah.
That the Soviets are so known to participate in.
True.
Uh,
Who's
ain't,
next,
ain't
Dev?
gonna work well.
Bring another one of these fucking dickheads in this chat.
Do you not want to talk about the forced hugging?
No.
Okay.
I don't want to talk about fucking Warhammer.
Okay.
Jesus
Or anime.
Christ.
Okay. Next guy on the list is a fellow named Kanto. Kanto 20.
The
King.
only,
I'm gonna bring him in.
the only anime we can talk about is Rick and Morty.
Greetings.
Okay.
Kanto 20, King of the Zakus. What's up, man?
Nothing. I'm terrible at public speaking. Okay, so I have an interesting theory to propose. What
Okay.
if we
Okay.
dissolved Washington, D.C., and all of the states went back to being much more independent and decentralized with their own individual currencies and economies? Because fuck the federal government.
So you want 50 countries then, with no 50 independent states?
I want it to be more decentralized. I think that was the original idea for the United States, and it became way more centralized after the Civil War.
Okay.
Well, that wasn't the original idea. Like they had the Federalist debates, and they came to this compromise. I think both sides agreed that the Articles of Confederation didn't work. That's why they had the convention in the first place. So, I don't know if the conception of the United States was always to be incredibly decentralized. But my theory would be
I
that
think it was actually, because I remember. So sorry, just I
Yeah,
just want to jump in here real quick, because I remember something that I've read recently. There was people saw themselves primarily as citizens of their state before the Civil War, but then as citizens of America afterwards. And that's
And I
something
think
that's pretty
was
well documented. So I think that might have
that was
been
a move by that fucking faggot Abraham Lincoln to
Jesus.
centralize
Jesus.
the country.
calm down on the slurs there.
Sorry,
One
sorry,
more.
sorry.
Oh, that's right.
you.
Econoboy's on. He's on Twitch, dude. You can't say that shit.
Oh, shit. I'm sorry. I hope I don't get you banned. I didn't even think about it.
Oh
okay.
God,
Kill me.
this is how my entire channel takes down Econoboy's channel.
Anyway, I think after the Civil War, the federal government decided, you know what? No state should really be able to be decentralized and free anymore, and so they started centralizing things more and, getting more and more power, and it started a snowball effect where we are today.
Well, some things shouldn't be.
And this is how we end up with shit like the
slavery at the
CIA
front
and the FBI fucking everybody over.
So,
I mean,
in terms of
well,
economics,
I
though, you
mean-
said 50 currencies, right? How would that work necessarily? I don't know.
Exchange, you just go to fucking a bank and get an exchange
yeah.
for whatever state
Be
you're
like
in.
Latin
That's what you
America
do
or
when you,
something.
that's
Okay.
what you do when you go from the United States to Canada. You get your U.S. dollars exchanged for Canadian dollars.
All right,
It's
fair
not that
enough.
hard.
Yeah.
Stop at a bank.
I mean, I just think that there would be a lot of like,
problems.
well, there'd be a lot of really negative geopolitical consequences, right? I mean, I think that
Maybe, but
you know,
things would be more
the U.S.
decentralized, and that's always
Well,
better.
yeah, but the problem is one-side decentralization. I mean, probably just leaves you a lot like very, very vulnerable to outside pressure, right? So, like for instance, if we decentralized, but then China was still around, that would like immediately make China the most powerful, wealthy nation in the world, right? With not a central countervailing foreign policy to go against them, right? Like you could argue the EU or something, but the EU is more what you would describe than what I would, and so. I'd be very uncomfortable in a world without the United States to counter Chinese influence, Chinese government influence. That's to say, and I think that this is where your principle of decentralization, ultimately, if it's one-sided, well, I mean, again, many individual U.S. states wouldn't be nuclear powers. What's to stop countries like Russia and China and bad actors from really trying to fuck over like significant portions of the United States, right? I think that'd be pretty
Well, I
rough.
mean, if
So.
it's like California, I'm okay with them being annexed. So.
Well, but I don't think you are really, right? Because then again, right, depending on where you live and stuff, I don't,
I
because a
live
lot
on
of
the
states
East
would
Coast.
suck to live in, right? So,
Yeah.
if it's like, oh, you're living in Mississippi or some shit, it's like, it's like I think the average Mississippian benefits greatly from being part of a union versus, in this individual like state country system that you're talking about, right? Because they get a lot more money from the federal government than they send to the federal government, right? And
I
so,
think they should. That makes them a bit of a leech on the entire thing, then, doesn't it? I feel like then they should be absorbed into a different state that could better handle it.
well, yeah, but then you're just
It's
talking
the same
about.
reason we don't
I mean,
let Puerto Rico become a state. They can't fucking provide anything.
Well, no, I mean, I think Puerto Rico would provide a lot if it was a state. I'm not sure what the federal dollars would look like, but in terms of the power of the country, I mean, it sounds like you're talking about basically just decentralizing the United States, and then the stronger states would absorb all the smaller ones. Like, okay, well, but that's just like a more inefficient, like worse version of what we have currently, right? We already did that, right? That's already part of our history, right? And so I'm not
I
sure
mean,
if we're
it
actually.
shouldn't keep going. Survival of the fittest, and then eventually those others, it should just keep it. The federal government shouldn't have nearly as much control over these kinds of things as it does.
Yeah, but if you wanted to argue that, the 10th Amendment should be expanded to mean a lot more things than it currently does, I mean, that's fine, right? But, that's a lot different than saying every state should be its own country, right? Because the strongest and the fittest did survive, right? The United States is a thing right now. The country we did absorb all those smaller, weaker states and, integrated them into the United States, and that's where we are currently. So if that's what you're advocating for, then we've already done that.
I think
Fucking
somebody
got
told me
him.
to say the N word in the thread.
Don't you
I'm not
fucking
gonna,
dare!
I'm not gonna do it. I just found it funny. I'm not that retarded. Jesus Christ.
No, I get that
I don't know.
feeling.
I'm
It's
just
the feeling
I
that when
I
you
just think
can,
I don't just don't like the federal government as
you
it is.
can
It should
just
really be
trash
dissolved,
this
and
whole thing with no survivors.
things
Oh,
should
Jesus
be
Christ.
completely reworked. The way the federal government
Maybe.
works and all that. I
Do
think
you have any other questions, Kanto?
what do you think about do you think do you think current day China is more communist or capitalist? Because I think they're more capitalist, but with a communist skin suit.
Definitely more capitalist, in my
Yeah.
view.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
They're
most socialist country in
fascist.
the
They're
world is probably
fascist,
Norway.
Econoboi.
I I can see him as being kind of a blend of all the worst things from every ideology.
All right.
Well, sure. I mean,
They're
they've got,
like
they have collective ownership and,
it's
government
like
control. But
they took the worst parts of capitalism, fascism, communism, socialism, all that, and blended it into one shit smoothie.
I
I
can see
guess
that.
so. I mean,
Yeah.
a shit smoothie that's currently, taking over large parts of the world. So,
Probably go
something's working out.
handle it.
Well, we
Yeah.
need a strong America for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't listen, when you're playing the great game, you can't take the best player for freedom and decentralize them to the point that they've been castrated. Then
I think we
you're just
should
handing a win to
expand.
the Chinese, man.
We should expand the
I'm like a
borders.
libertarian, so of course decentralization is good, but if we decentralize and balkanize only America while we leave while we leave China and Russia like singular and well
Like,
powerful
expand the
is
borders. Annex
is
Canada.
relative.
Fuck
Okay.
off.
Annex Canada.
Annex
Take away their
Canada.
socialist healthcare.
Annex
Okay.
Canada so Dev can have his rights back.
Their socialist healthcare is hurting the citizens. Okay, and we need to
Honestly,
annex
looking
them
at
and
the tax rate, yeah, it kind of is.
I
we
don't
need to
like
annex them
waiting
and take away
waiting
their
for 5
socialism.
years. That kind of sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
my dad's got a fractured thumb. He's got military health care, and he was able to go right in, get it x-rayed and all that. Didn't have to wait a month and a half.
That's socialism, dude.
Yeah, that's
No,
literally
he got the
socialism.
health
What you just
care
described.
because he served in the military. I'm not
Well,
going to get that health care anymore when I turn 21.
Well,
yeah, but
but at
that's
the same time,
state healthcare.
State
That's
healthcare, man.
socialism.
State health care specifically for a certain group of people, not for the rest of the country.
Hey, Medicare in Canada is specifically for a group of people known as Canadians. Okay.
Yep, citizens only, man.
I just think it hikes the taxes too high and some more centralization. Anyway, that's all I got. I ran out of brain power. I'm a little hungover from last night's D&D session.
Damn.
Jesus.
Average dev audience member
Fuck
runs out
off.
of brain power.
Thanks for being here, though, man.
All right, yeah. Bye.
Okay, see ya. All right. So this has been an amazing shit show, and I kind of like it.
It's been good. It's been a good time.
All right. Next, you're ready for the next ones? You two? You good to go?
I'm fucking ready.
Yep.
All right.
Let's
Next
do
up
it.
is a
Let's
guy
go.
named TrickOvek15. All right. You ready? TrickOvek? Hold on. What's his full name?
Tricklevic.
TrickOvek. A trickle Rick. Okay. Trickovic 15, oatmeal supremacist.
Trickle Rick.
Yes, thank you for, letting me attend this.
This is
No
a fake
problem.
accent. 100%.
Yep. So, first of all, I'd like to... Oh,
First of all, man, I need to know a little bit more about your avatar. Why did you choose this chick?
so why did I choose Saki Yoshida
Yes.
with the explosion effect from Kong Monkey Island in her glasses?
Yes.
Well, it's a long story, but essentially at one point in my late teens, I was like, I need an avatar that kind of, somewhat reflects the emotional baggage I had at the time from a streak of rather unlucky relationships. So it is how I got there.
Oh, you know what? That actually makes a lot of sense considering the context of that girl. Okay. So, what is your question for Econoboi? What's up?
Okay, so let me start off with quite an interesting one. So, Econoboi, what's your take on tomboy abs?
Oh,
Tomboy abs. Are these women who
tomboy
have
abs.
abs?
Tomboy abs. Tomboys with abs.
Right. Remember,
I mean,
Sargon had this whole discourse over.
That wasn't Sargon. That was Academic Agent. Sargon got in on it later.
I mean,
it started with
you know,
Academic
I
Agent.
see.
if women want to have abs, I mean, go for it. They're in good shape. Well, how am I supposed to judge a woman who's in good shape?
So, Academic Agent said, like a year ago now, that women with abs are a sign of the downfall of civilization.
Yummy
Well,
downfall of civilization.
You mind?
well,
This
that guy's
guy's
obviously pretty
he-
stupid,
he,
if that's
he,
what he
he
said.
he's a neo-reactionary. So he's very much like yep, all trad stuff all the time.
How is it not trad to fucking have abs? Like, what's the big fucking deal if
Because
a
it's
woman has
women.
abs?
It's
I don't get it.
women who have the abs. That's the problem. Listen, Adam and Sitch have had like
Men
a back
have
and
abs.
forth.
What
Adam
the
and Sitch
fuck?
have had a lengthy back and forth with Academic Agent over this shit because he was like a regular conservative 5 or 6 years ago, and he's kind of gone down some rabbit holes that are a bit crazy. And
Who doesn't want to like the chocolate bar?
sorry, what?
Got them. Who doesn't want to lick those chocolate bars? Got
Yeah, that's the
them.
point. Is that
Got those things. Cum gutters.
if you want to lick them,
Yep.
then you're the problem. Because it's masculinizing women, as he would say.
Goddamn.
Good. Masculine
I mean, look,
women and
if you're
feminizing men.
intimidated by a
Yep.
woman with abs,
Why
it sounds
not?
like you're a feminized, weak man. Okay, that's what I
Exactly.
would say.
You should be keeping
You
up
know?
with her. Yeah.
Exactly.
Stop drinking all the plastic particles. Alex Jones was right.
He was. All right. And what are your next questions, Trick of Egg? By the way, I still
Alright
think your
then.
accent's fake. 100%.
Not really. I live in Central Europe, and the thing with my
Seems
accent is that
vague.
ever since I was 3, I started learning English. And the thing is that most English courses where I live are like one tends to go like towards the American English, and other ones like more British, and you know. So my accent ended up being a blend of like the one I naturally have, and the various accents of English-speaking countries.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Anyways, so
Still fake.
I wanted to
Jesus.
ask. So I wanted to ask, are you familiar with a little country called Slovakia?
I know what Slovakia is. I know it exists. Yes.
So I wanted to ask, you see, uh, during over a couple of years, we've had a lot of Sogdam candidates elected, and most of the time it didn't really contribute to such goals, and overall has been a net negative for the economy.
Okay.
So, I'm wondering if you, well, if you like have a theory on what could the main cause of the failures of such failures be? What
I
could
mean,
be?
I don't know. I'm looking at the Social Democratic Party of Slovakia right now. I'm not sure why Slovakia uniquely has problems. I mean,
Hold on,
you know,
there's an echo. There's an echo coming through, dude.
oh no.
Trikovic, you gotta turn off your speakers or something and put on headphones.
Holy shit! Yeah, I have a terrible mic, so.
Okay. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, no, I mean,
mean-
I was just gonna say that, there could be any number of reasons why your country's having trouble. I don't know if it's unique to like the social democratic ideology or just like bad governance. It's not always the case that if you elect a social democrat, they're gonna like, revolutionize the economy or anything like that. So, it just depends, right?
I mean, my theory is that for such policies to succeed, there must be a certain, I'd say, a foundation for it. In most cases,
Do you mean like a high
Um,
trust society or something?
to an extent, yes.
I mean, I disagree. I think that, for instance, everyone references the Nordic countries as the examples, the best examples of like social democracy, right? And those societies had, they were very unequal. They were relatively undeveloped compared to the rest of Europe for a long time, and they instituted a lot of social democratic policies that turned out to be very, very effective at alleviating both of those problems. When it comes to the U.S. history with social democracy and basically government services and taxation and stuff like that, FDR, he implemented a ton of taxes or not taxes. He implemented a ton of government services, and those ended up being very effective at alleviating poverty and reducing inequalities and stuff like that, which is good. And so, I'm not, and that was at a time when the U.S. had like virtually almost no welfare programs at all, right? And so, what base did we have before we implemented those policies that turned out to be very, very effective? And so, I don't know. I don't think it's that. I think it's going to just be like the specific government and how they're instituting certain policies, right? I mean, again, sometimes the government institutes policies in a bad way. The American government's the same. So
I somewhat agree. Anyways,
there we go.
on to my last questions, and this one's directed towards you, Dev.
Oh shit.
So,
Shit.
What's up?
who's the best girl in Evangelion?
I go back and forth on it, to be honest. Sometimes it's
Wow.
Rei, sometimes it's
Thanks,
Asuka.
Twitter. As usual.
Misato.
It's never Misato though, not for me. I'm not into the milfs. Sorry.
Bad taste of.
But for when I was younger, for a long time it was Rei, and now I'm more likely to swing Asuka.
Well, more likely to swing, he says.
Of course, the answer is obviously both. That's the real answer.
Yep. Because Dev is is a man of culture over here.
Mhm.
Well, I guess I'll go and open up a spot for another fellow.
Thanks
Have
very
a
much for
great
being
one.
here, man. Thank you. There we go. Hold on, Econoboi, you don't watch Evangelion, do you? Because it's anime.
Honestly, the only anime that I've watched recently was One Punch Man.
That's not bad. That's okay. You get a point for that one.
Pretty good show. I liked it. Oh yeah, and also Rick and Morty. Can't forget
Season
Rick and
2
Morty.
fell off.
Okay, next person is Rice. It's just a person named Rice. Okay, let's go, Rice.
You know, Rick and Morty's producing an actual anime. Did you know that, Dev?
Are you fucking kidding me? Why?
I
They are
heard about
literally
that.
making a real anime spinoff of Rick and Morty. That's a real
Oh.
thing.
Which studios is animating it?
I don't know. I think it's gonna be because they released a couple anime shorts, so I assume it'll be that style. But I'm not sure. But no,
Hold
so
on,
we'll
though.
see how that goes.
Enough anime nonsense, because Rice is here. What's up?
Yeah,
I'm
I didn't mean
sorry.
to cut off anyone here.
What's going
Seems
on?
like he was very invested into the anime industry of Rick and Morty.
Guy with an anime profile pic has the deepest voice of anyone that's came on so far.
If you want, I can
Of
make it
course.
deeper.
Go ahead.
Make it deeper. Do it.
But anyways, hello.
The deepest possible.
Can always try for you, Dev. Kind of cringe.
What's
But
going on, man?
anyways, someone who's studying in, well, teaching basically. I want to go teach in high school, and I've started my program, and I'm in the French province of Quebec. You know,
I'm
I think
sorry.
Dev loves this province.
Yeah,
I'm fucking
sorry for that as well.
What do you mean? It's a great place. I'm a Frenchie as well.
Oh yeah? I'm
Yeah.
sorry for that too.
And piece of shit.
But yes, this is just to say I have two questions relating to education. The first one is a bit less economically focused, but it's still related in a way. So basically in my classes, we've been talking about how to teach the subject. So how to teach like social studies, because that's what I'm studying into. So how to teach history, how to abort it, how to like appropriate the program basically. And one of the foundations that we have is that teachers themselves can influence the youth. So we can influence the students that we have. And the program says that we are going to influence them no matter what. And I know a lot of like rightoids or even leftoids viewers were gonna be mad because like they want them to stay impartial, but either way that's gonna happen, right? So my question is, do you think teachers have the same power as, let's say, companies or corporations to be able to influence the students as much as like, or basically just do propaganda on the students themselves? Because companies that like can do that. We have laws here that forbids like companies to show advertisements into schools to prevent propaganda of such a sort. The only thing you're not allowed to do as an influence as a teacher is propaganda.
Well, I mean, I don't think I don't think teachers are as ideologically consistent as corporations. Like for instance, if like obviously as an American, I think that there is a broader like corporate ideological movement that includes some themes that are more coherent than others, right? So, for instance, it seems like over time corporations are becoming more and more like pro social justice. Things like gay rights and trans rights and black rights and stuff like that. And so I think that that's much more ideologically consistent. I think that that'll have a lot bigger of an influence than like teachers as a class, because teachers are a product of their environment, much like anyone else, right? I went to public schools in Texas, and certainly most of my teachers were like fairly conservative people, and you could tell that in how they how they taught certain subjects, and how they, teachers don't literally only ever talk about the subject that they, teach, right? It wouldn't be unusual for like, a 15, 16-year-old me to like spark up some conversation about some issue with like a math teacher or something like that, depending on the context, right? And it just wasn't that unusual for a teacher to express their political ideology in class, right? Either because of inquiry from students or because they just felt strongly about it. Whether that be appropriate or not, I'm not sure. But the point is that that's a little bit all over the place. I'm sure that your experience would be a lot different if you taught in like California, or for instance, if you maybe you taught in Texas, but you taught in one of the bigger cities like Austin or Houston, right? So as a class, I don't think teachers are going to have like as one directional an influence as corporations do, and certainly they're not going to have like the dollars behind their sort of political statements as corporations do. Whether that's good or bad, it's just going to depend on the movement for me, right? So obviously, like I think it's fine that corporations are being more pro-gay and like more pro-trans and pro-black and stuff like that. But insofar as companies endorse progressive policies, in my view, I'll say that that's wrong and they shouldn't do that. And same thing with teachers, right? I'm not sure if we should expect teachers to be like, entirely apolitical, like ideological people, right? I think it's fine for teachers to have like basic political conversations with students. And I say that as someone who spoke to mostly conservative teachers growing up. Assuming it doesn't lead to some form of retribution, right? Obviously, if you've got a situation where teachers perhaps talk about or even encourage as part of their coursework, political discussions, and they start punishing students for what they say or believe, stuff like that, instead of just encouraging open discourse, I think would be problematic outside of like, obviously if a student says something like really bigoted or something, like that's one thing where you probably want to punish them, but that's different from just talking about politics. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, like our school system itself, like tries to promote critical thinking in quotation marks, obviously, because like, would you explain that? But it's a bit hard to explain when you have like a program that's written by the government, and then it's like, okay, follow the program, and here are the evaluations type of thing. But yeah, one of my teachers was just like mentioning how he himself is an anarchist, or considers himself an anarchist, right? He's not part of any like cell or anything like that. He's just like an anarchist. He doesn't want like the government to intervene in other things, and he just like, I can do like the good thing on my own. And he was basically bringing up this idea that if he were to like, because he does like this class called Monde Contemporain, which is like contemporary world. It's like last year of high school class, and it's basically like a history, political, economic, and like geographical class. And he basically brings up how he would sometimes bring this idea of, if you were a French family under the Nazi regime in World War II, would you let a Jewish family stay in your house, right? And he's like, I can't punish a student for saying that they wouldn't, because either they would be anti-Semite or other things like that. He's like, I can't do that. That would be like considered on the borderline of propaganda, because I'm forcing them to like basically uphold my ideals, which would be, I would let them in. But that's in this situation right now in the present. But maybe in the past it wouldn't be the same.
I think it just depends on the ideal, right? So like again, right, if like if you'd asked that question and then some student piped up and said, "No, actually, I not only would I not let them stay, I would actively try and kill as many Jews as possible." It's like, okay, well, this is a kid who probably needs to see a counselor or something, because that's a psychotic thing for a student to believe, right? And so you
Well,
probably want
depends
to
if
nip that in the bud.
sorry to cut you off, but I think it depends like
Yeah, sure.
he actually believes that, or if he's saying, in the situation where I'm in World War II Germany, maybe I would be apt to like killing as many of them as possible, right?
Or maybe
Obviously,
he's
it
just being an
depends.
edgy shit.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
I might have said that just to get a rise out of people when I was a kid.
I mean, as someone who would become a teacher, I wouldn't mind if a kid says that in my class. Honestly, I would just be like, "Why do you think that?" Like, I would
well,
make him explain his argument so that others
no,
can
I
see that you
mean,
can still talk to those people in a way.
I think it's fine to regulate to some extent, like, because again, like we care about bullying, right, and stuff like that, right? If a kid said in class, he raised his hand and said, "I hate N-words," it's like, okay, well, you're not really contributing to any thoughtful discussion. You're just being really really hateful towards probably a portion of your classmates, right? And so at least in my school, in my conservative Texas public school that I went to, if I did that, I would be written up, I would be given suspension, stuff like that. And I don't think that's an unusual way to go about disciplining a student if they say something that's completely out of hand. And I think similarly, like if you're talking about World War II and you've got a student who's saying like, gosh, honestly, this Hitler guy was great and I wish he'd killed more Jews, it's like, okay, yeah, this is I think it's fine to discipline that student and tell him like, hey, if you're gonna say that stuff, say it at home, right? This isn't appropriate for a classroom discussion.
So here's the thing.
At the very least, make sure it's a joke.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Well, but even if it's a joke, like that's just not like
Save it
that's
for
not an
recess, I
appropriate.
guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not
So-
a cool
Like
joke to make.
if conservatives are of the opinion that like in a classroom setting there's literally no such thing as inappropriate speech, then they're out of line with like how every fucking school in the Western world is governed, right? I mean, that's just
it
not
depends.
like obviously
I got-
there are things a kid can say that are inappropriate that you should punish them for.
Sure, but I think you could actually probably have a certain type of class where you're seriously evaluating certain things, and you might want to, if you're quoting somebody or if you're actually like considering other ideologies, maybe like a political science class or something, you could actually be like, well, what was the benefits and drawbacks of killing the Jews in World War II? You could have that conversation, I think, in a political science class.
I don't know.
I think
don't
you
know if
could.
you could.
I think you can as well.
Look,
Yeah.
I did an entire political.
Kind of morbid.
I did a whole political science degree, and I never felt it. I don't think that conversation was ever really necessary, particularly productive if it was brought up. But the point is just to say, like, I think it's reasonable to, like, if you wanted to do a descriptive analysis and say, hey, here's the assignment, right? Why did Hitler feel the way he did about Jewish people and about all these different minorities that he wanted to kill? Descriptively tell me why he felt that way. And write a paper on it, 5-page paper, double spaced, whatever it is. That I think that would be fine, right? But to tell a student like, give me like a pro-con list of why killing the Jews was good.
It
It's like,
obviously depends
well,
on how you phrase it, because if you phrase it like that, that's a way different thing than
well,
like
yeah, like
saying, are
phrasing
there
and
any
framing, right?
pros
Oh
to
yeah,
like a
to phrase
fascist
it
or
in a way
Nazi
There's
that makes
regime?
like,
killing
I'm not
Jews not
saying
seem so
I'm not
bad.
I'm
I
not saying
guess.
kids shouldn't. Yeah, I'm not saying kids shouldn't understand why Hitler felt the way that he did. Right, that's different. But
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how you frame it, and framing it as like, give me a pro-con list for killing Jews is different from saying, let's do a deep ideological, discovery and history of the Nazi movement and how Hitler was born and his environment, and go from there to understand why Hitler thought the way that he did. Like, to me, that's a much more reasonable and responsible way to teach that. And so that just goes
P.S.
back to my.
The
Wait, I
answer
was just going to
the
say
answer was
that just
capitalism.
yeah. Well, that just goes back to my original point, which is like, there's obviously ways that you can interrogate a subject, and not like
Yeah.
suppress free speech and handle it in an appropriate way. I mean, this is how like conservatives talk about sex ed in schools. How like, oh, like we obviously shouldn't be teaching 4-year-olds how to like fuck ass properly, right? As if that's something that's being taught to 4-year-olds in schools. But again, I think that's where a leftist or a liberal would say like, well, no, obviously you can talk about sex ed at many different stages of a kid's development, but you have to scale that discussion with what the kid is prepared for, right? So like, for
Yes,
instance,
yeah,
like a kindergartner or a first grader, and we talked about this before, Dev, like a kindergartner or a first grader, you would tell them, these are your body parts. If an adult touches you there, that's very inappropriate. Here's who you go to if something like that happens. Like, that's a version of sex ed for like a first grader. And then a version of sex ed for like a 17-year-old would be like, these are condoms. Here's how to use a condom. These are the forms of both birth control available to you. Like, it's going to be very different. And, similarly, when we're talking about, teaching World War II, there's like an appropriate and inappropriate way for students and faculty to engage in that material. And I think the failure to recognize that is just being like purposely blind and stupid, right? Like,
Yeah.
there is a wrong way to teach about World War II, right?
Someone
there are wrong ways
in
to
the
teach
chat
about World
says
War II.
Sonic says, and it's like, yes, Sonic says. Wait, Econoboi, you're young. You probably don't even know that clip, do you?
I guess not. I must be
Are you
too much
are
of a
you se-
youngster.
You
Oh my
don't
god.
know about
I'm
the
young, but
That's
I know
So
what
Good?
Sonic Says is. I
know,
used to be a Sonic fan.
The Sonic Says clip from like 1991 where Sonic talks about adults touching you.
I didn't
That's
know that
no
existed.
good.
That's
That's an
no
example, though.
good.
That's an example of sex ed targeted towards children, but is probably positive because it prevents students from being abused. I mean, a lot of kids who get abused,
Absolutely.
they don't realize that they even were abused until they become teenagers and adults later, and it's because they don't get that kind of basic sex ed when they're younger.
Okay, I'll have to link that to you after the stream, Econoboi, so you can watch it.
And I had just another like branch of question, because I know it's coming up because we have elections in our province. And like we obviously have our own like socialist, communist,
Fucking
borderline.
Quebec goddamn elections. Fuck Quebec and fuck the politicians of Quebec. Okay, every time I read about them, it makes me upset, Rice. Okay.
Well,
Fuck
yeah,
'em.
I understand why, because like I think they're trying to make a like language divide when there like can be none. Like obviously, like French culture is different from English
This
culture or
stupid
Brit
fucking
culture.
Quebec nationalist bullshit, Rice. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, but look, you're Canadian. You're not French. You don't
Yeah.
sound French. Every time I hear someone, look, okay, no offense to the Quebecers, but every time I interact with someone, and I think, man, what the fuck? Where's this person from? I can't pin their accent at all. They sound completely ridiculous. Guess where they're always from, Rice? Fucking Quebec. Okay, because they sound ridiculous. I don't like them.
Do I
Their
sound
politicians are
ridiculous?
crazy.
You
Look,
sound
Rice, you're
fine.
one of the good ones. Okay,
Okay,
but
you sound normal, not Quebec.
It's because I'm not a nationalist. I do think of like decentralization of power, especially that like you guys were talking about it earlier. But I think Canada is like a shithole country in the sense that like it serves no purpose really. Like there's no like big like problem with it decentralizing. So I feel like I'd rather have that, and then after that you can form like your own like municipal cultural things, right? It's more like a
Listen,
decentralization.
shut the
plan.
fuck up,
I mean, a lot
because
of stuff.
I don't want to live in the nation of Ontario. Thank you very much. This place sucks.
Well, you
Well,
wouldn't.
a lot of powers in Canada are devolved, though, right? So I think,
Yeah, they
for
are,
instance,
yeah.
like the Medicare system is devolved to the provinces in terms of running the system, and the funding just comes from the federal government. And I think there's a lot of that's how the U.S. does its welfare system. I think to its detriment, to be fair. But I think Canada is probably pretty similar in a lot of ways in like the
We should do the
federalization.
thing that's like the opposite of what Quebec nationalists want and incorporate Quebec into America as a state.
The state of
That's true.
Quebec.
We'll be good friends with Louisianians who have like French heritage or some way.
Yeah, they do
Where they
actually.
literally just can't speak English either, but that's a different.
Yeah.
But yeah, my second question was just because of like the elections coming up. There's like our own communist socialist party called Québec Solidaire, which like kind of talks about removing or the complete removal of private schools, and this is more like related to economics, so it might be more of your forte.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think that's a good idea? Do you think it's a good way to like? Because the argument they have behind it is just this idea of equality of opportunity, and if you have private schools,
Sure.
and that means they can have access to better education.
Yeah, I mean, there's a political reality, I think, to every potential policy, even if it's good or bad. Which is to say that politically, you might have to advocate for bad policies because people want them, or you might not be able to advocate for good policies because people don't want them, right? And so I think that schooling is an interesting intersection there, because it seems like the best, from my survey of different school systems, it seems like the best school system is the Finnish school system, right? And the Finnish school system has very few private schools. I believe that the private schools that they do have to run as a nonprofit. You're not allowed to like profit off of schools, and their public schools receive equal funding. And you're not even allowed to raise money for your school. So like, if you live in a rich area, you're not allowed to donate a ton of money to your public school because they just have like sort of a hyper equality type mindset with their schools. And, again, this isn't some liberal hippy dippy bullshit. Like Finland typically ranks amongst Western countries as like probably the best school system, right? And I don't think it's a coincidence that that's the case given how equitable it is. People talk about in America, America has the best schools in the world. Well, yeah, I mean, if you're rich, if you can afford them, if you live in wealthy areas, that's true. But if you look at poor areas of America, those are some of the worst educational outcomes that, in the developed world that you can imagine, right? I mean, talk about, reading proficiency and stuff like that. Basic math skills can be really low in these areas, right? And that's pretty ridiculous for such a rich country. And so, in terms of getting rid of all private schools, I just don't know how necessary that is. Again, even Finland has some private schools. I think that there can be some advantages to like, headcount funded, nonprofit schools, especially like magnet schools, specialized schools, stuff like that. Because we can also see some utility to that too. Like, for instance, say that there's, say that a school doesn't have a lot of students with disabilities, but let's say that you have like a really well-run nonprofit school that specializes for students with disabilities. Like, it might just be better to send them to that school than like, a low students with disability density school that's, publicly funded. So I can see some utility from, nonprofit schools organized to have, special, basically specialized labor and specialized curricula for certain types of students. So I don't see that as being a huge deal. Obviously, I don't think the Communist Party of Quebec is. I don't think they're going to win the election in Quebec, but
Well,
they're
let's
not
fucking
called
hope.
communist, but they're very heavily inclined leftwards. Just like how
Well,
like
sure.
just like how there's a conservative party, but people call it like a fascist party, which I don't see the resemblance. They're more so a decentralized party, but that's a different thing. They're like not culturally right whatsoever. They're just economically right and like individual like focused. But yeah.
But I could be wrong. But isn't it a Oh no, I guess I am wrong. Yeah, so it's not the
It's the Orange
hyper-nationalist
Party. It's the
parties.
same thing as the NPD, who's orange. Like I don't know
Yeah,
why they
it's like
focus on orange. Orange is my favorite color, and it's being ruined by them. But
it's the provincial level. Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. But yeah, no, I mean, it looks like based on the polling, the coalition's going to win in Quebec, basically the Conservative Party of Quebec. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, my thoughts on that is that that's probably dumb to ban literally all private schools. But I think that having like a fairly equitable egalitarian system for schooling kids is probably optimal. Similar to how Finland does it.
yeah, all right. Thank you for your answers. I won't take too much time, unless Dev wants to talk about Warhammer Age of Sigmar or something.
We have like 20 more fucking people who want to come in,
Yeah, I
so
know that's why I'm
no.
gonna leave. But thank you for this chat. Thank you for answering.
Thanks, man. There we go. See, Econoboi, I kind of disagree, Bernie, a little bit. For me, it seems like the purpose of public schooling, or the purpose of a healthcare service, is to provide a minimum level of care so that people who are poor aren't completely shut out. But I still think there's value in having, for those who can afford it, or for those who have the ability, a higher level of schooling, for example. I think that's reasonable because, the whole point of a minimum is that it's a minimum, and some people are better than that.
Well, yeah, but you can have. I mean, again, I don't know the system in Canada, but like at least in America and in Finland too, right? There's like basically the equivalent version of advanced courses and advanced placement tests that you can give students who are higher achieving, and cordon them off into specialized programs that allows them to, like, for instance, study college while they're in high school, or just take the advanced versions or like the accelerated versions of whatever courses there are. I don't think that necessarily requires like a huge private school infrastructure, because I mean, at least in America, like pretty much every public school in America, even the bad public schools, will have like a collegiate or accelerated track that you can test into, or you can take courses, based on your GPA or whatever it is. So I'm not
Yeah.
sure that that's
I mean,
mutually exclusive with just like a public scheme for education.
the thing is, during my time in school, I was on that accelerated track, and it fucking sucked. And I
Maybe
often
you
wonder.
suck, Dev. Look how
No,
you turned
no.
out. Jesus.
I often wonder if maybe if there was like if there were schools for the accelerated track, that it might have been better. It might have been more like focused, because
Well, I mean, but that's a magnet school, right? So like, we can, of course, we can. I don't know how it works in Finland, but like, I think that similarly, right? We can imagine like, a nonprofit and like application-based magnet school that you can get into in a system where, again, we have like equitable funding among schools, and like, less opportunities to fundraise and stuff like that for schools, assuming they're, you want to have well-funded schools in the first place. So,
Mhm.
the equality aspect of like the Finnish education system, again, I don't think is mutually exclusive from just having specialized schools with special students in one way or another, who can go there and and thrive. Like for instance, you might have schools for the arts, right? If kids are particularly interested in studying the arts while they're in high school, or like science academies and stuff like that. Again, I think that's you can have public and nonprofit versions of those as well. I think in these types of systems that are application based and not open enrollment. Just I think that oftentimes when we talk about education policy, we're talking about how to run open enrollment schools, right? And
Right, yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's kind of what we're concerned with. But everything that you're mentioning, everything that I've echoed is these would be like nonprofit or private schools that aren't open enrollment in the first place.
Right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
But to get into them, it wouldn't be money based. You can't, it's if you want to get into like the fucking high achieving school, your daddy can't just donate a fucking $1 million and get you in. No, you have to actually get in based on merit. So
Fair enough. There's a guy. Next guy. You all ready for the next one? Next guy.
Yeah.
born ready.
Is it
Next
singed or
guy.
singed?
I think it's
Sing-
Singed. I think I've talked to
Singed?
Singed before in
Okay.
other communities.
Oh shit! This will be the reunion. Let's bring him in.
I think it's been a while though.
Hi,
Hey,
Econoboi.
Singed. Hey man, what's up?
Hello. Nothing much. I'm just sitting around here playing with my parrot.
Your parrot? Are you JonTron?
Yes. No. Not nearly as
Are you
fat.
Nikado Avocado?
Oh god, he has one too.
I am visually scarred from being in the Discord server where they posted his leaked, let's say, creative imagery.
Oh my god, really?
Oh no.
Did they?
Yeah.
Why did he have
I've
those?
seen the moon and the roads. I've seen the red skies.
All right.
Oh, no.
So, do you have Econoboi
Yeah.
questions?
Yeah, sure. I have
Some
some
things nobody should ever see.
things I find kind of, how do I say this? Kind of, I guess they don't sound as well. For example, specialized programs, for example, for children who are smarter, right? A lot of the issues we have, especially with more intelligent kids, if you gate them by program, is similar to how you get in China, and even noticed over here in Europe and in the US, is that they become incredibly socially inept. They, with that talent, because they spent most of their day studying and learning, yes, they have immense knowledge, but they have no way to utilize it or even get their ideas into writing, or even if they do, even if they publish, they won't go much far in society, and it won't exactly help them with success, right?
Yeah, sure.
For life, it is more requirement of you to be charismatic than for you being smart. There's two types of people who make it: the extremely ambitious but mediocre charisma, and the very charismatic and mediocrely ambitious. Those types of people actually make it
Yep.
very far in life.
Well, again, I don't
You
know
are
how, but just to cut in, I don't know. Again, I don't know how other countries do it. I know that China has this almost like hyper hierarchical structure where you test into like you have to take. It's almost like an SAT for your high school. You test into what
yep.
high school you can go to, and then you have to test into what colleges you can go to. And I wouldn't advocate for that. I mean,
Oh, it's
we
called
see
the
these news
Goka.
stories of
Yeah,
like
we
you,
also we
you,
also have that over here. Yes, for high school
yeah
education, you're required to take a test, and then and then
yeah.
which vocational high school you can get into is gated by that grade.
Wait, what country are you from, Singe?
Serbia,
Damn, inshallah. So the point is
inshallah.
though, the point is just to say that like when it comes to China, right? Like I wouldn't advocate for that system. At least the way that we do it in America is that you've got like these basic sort of like there's no such thing as like advanced placement gym class, right? But you have to take gym class, right? And so
Yeah, of
the
course.
kids who are in like advanced placement or collegiate courses in high school are not like completely segregated from the other kids in the school. It's just their core classes, English, math, science, and history, where you're going to be
Yeah,
taking
they're
these
getting
AP
more
courses.
advanced. Yeah, I get it. So
Yeah, so I mean, I'd agree though, because again, like I think, look, man, no offense to all the private school kids out there, I've met a lot of you guys. I've met a lot of private school kids. You guys aren't normal. Like, there's a lot of private school kids that I've met who just, like you said, aren't socialized quite as, let's say, on the median as everyday public school kids, and
yeah,
don't even get me started on homeschool kids, right? I mean, again, I met quite a few homeschool kids, and again, there's just something about sending your kid to a school that is diverse both in class and in race and ethnicity 8 hours a day that just seems to socialize kids pretty well most of the time. But sending your kid to a private school with only rich kids, or keeping your kid at home all day with their family, it's just you don't get that valuable socialization that you're talking about. So
exactly. It's going to be an issue. I inherently have no issue with parents who choose for their private kids. I do have a lot of
I
hot takes
agree.
on education, but I'll keep those for later because I want to focus on other economic aspects. So,
Sure.
because schools are inherently going to have an impact on the economy depending on how you run them, let's talk about this, I guess. One issue I find specifically when it comes to, in general, how education is treated, a lot of the metrics I see being used for valuing the highest educational systems is those that you get the average highest score. The problem is though, like, who scores the highest? Of course, tests are going to vary, and how other countries score their students is also going to vary. But essentially, when you start prioritizing education and the average, how do you call it? Just the amount of information the average person has, you get a system like China, in where it's essentially everything is competition to see and to get the most information crammed into these kids' heads, which leads to usually incompetent adults and adults that literally are not having an issue even completely socialized. You get a society that's inherently built on collective identity rather than certain individualism, and you lack. And the problem is, I would say, when it comes to collective identity in the modern age, I don't think it was actually a problem before. I actually prefer that before, just because everyone essentially knew their positions, and it would lead to a society that, yes, I'm in this block, I can move forward and stuff like that. And you know that there's pathways and specific how you interact with other people was already known. For example, a lot of the issues for right now in Japan happening is because of the American influence individualism, where a lot it led to high depression rates, high suicide rates, because now you have a society that was based on collectivism for many, many years, where everyone knew their role and how to interact with other people. Suddenly, that's torn away, and now you have the most ambitious and charismatic individuals going to the top. So, in the kind of global society we live today, you have to be an ambitious and charismatic person.
Yeah.
So, if there is a public education system, it should focus on how to be ambitious, but not ambitious to the detriment of everyone else, where it's like destroy everyone in your path, like ridiculously. It should focus, yes, you should be ambitious, and there's ways you should build connections with other people. That's how you advance. I think that would also lessen bullying, because, for example, if the bully is somehow informed and at least gets the idea that, yeah, this dude's really fucking smart. Maybe I shouldn't bully him, and I actually should stay closer because he knows physics and can help me advance myself in life. Right? yeah, you're exploiting someone else, but every relationship is going to have positive and negative, right?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it sounds like we agree that socialization of children is an important aspect of education. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I
not
got
much to
lost
disagree
halfway
with
through
there.
that. I'm sorry, man. That was a lot.
Yeah, I know. I just go and rant sometimes. Sorry about that.
No, fair enough. Fair enough.
One of the things.
Hold on. I got to jump in here because we have 16 people left and probably only. Wait, Lilith, you got to go. You have something IRL to do. In 3.5 hours, so we can probably only go for 2.5 hours. So we can probably only go for like another hour or so. So we have 16 people in the queue. I'm gonna try to like keep people at 5 to
If I
10
have
minutes
to leave,
max.
you guys don't have to stop the show on my behalf.
Okay.
I
It's
just
not a
have to
show
leave
without
at
you,
around
Lilith.
It's not a show without you, Lilith.
Thank you. I just
But
wish I had more
Wow, using
more energy to put in more input.
I think there's a word
No, I
for
understand.
this.
You're
I
sick right
can't
now. I
say it
get it.
on
I get it.
Twitch, but
It's okay. Well, so here, basically, yes, yeah. Singed. If you have a question, drop it. Daddy,
Yeah,
what the
real quick
fuck? Why did you get in here?
I'm the replacement for Lilith.
Moderator.
Roland, you've ruined my overlay on the stream. Get the fuck out. Jesus. Okay, Daddy, come in later, okay? Come in later.
I got one quick question, then I can exit. Econoboi, I find one issue though is why would you, when it comes to that, why would you say income inequality is an inherently negative thing? I wouldn't say it's inherently negative.
No, not inherently. I don't think that perfect. I think the idea is that just all else equal, we would prefer a more equal society to a less equal one, unless there's some like inherent virtue in being unequal, which I'm not aware of. But practically,
I can
of
argue
course,
that
that's
if you want,
not,
but we'll wait.
Well, it's just that practically, of course, it's not possible to have complete income equality. However, empirically, income inequality, high levels of income inequality are bad for a number of reasons. High levels of income inequality cause crime, and it also actually decreases economic growth, right? And so these are high levels of income inequality, right? And I think that certain developed countries today probably are. I think certain high income countries today, I think, qualify as having high levels of income inequality, and taxes and welfare are good ways to not only uplift people out of poverty, but also decrease income inequality commensurate with socially optimal outcomes.
That's true. But
I would say the Netherlands
go
is, for example, an example of a country with high income inequality, yet equal. I don't think it's actually income inequality that is. I think it's correlative. I don't think it's a positive issue when it comes to a lot of cases where you can say, okay, this country is high income inequality and also high crime, but you also have very big examples of the opposite, right?
Well, I mean, I think that the Netherlands actually has pretty low income inequality relative to many other countries. Some of the skepticism in that regard is like you'll see some metrics that say that the Netherlands and like Sweden and Finland have like really high levels of wealth inequality, but wealth inequality in terms of how it's measured is very, very dubious, right? And it's there's reasons to be skeptical of those statistics a lot. If you want, Money and Macro did a video on I think it's literally called the Netherlands, the most unequal country in the world, and he goes into this in detail, and I thought it was a pretty good video.
Yeah, I guess that's all the questions I have, though. Oh yeah, by the way, Econo, never forget to shout out our conservative. I swear to God, if I had to tell one gibberish.
Okay, yeah, our
What?
conservative.
Our
Nah,
conservative?
that's-
Who's this?
R
No,
slash
this is a
conservative.
subreddit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being here, man.
See ya. Thanks.
See ya.
Okay.
Jeez, that. All right. I don't even recognize that guy. Did he come here just for this?
He may have. Singed is I've talked to him a number of times on the r/conservative Discord. So.
Okay, neat, cool. See, here's my objection, Econoboi. There seems to be like everything that you said is correct. First of all, but there also seems to be an inverse effect where if things are too equal, it also stifles things because there's going to be some natural differences in output.
Yeah.
And if you completely just
Yeah, I mean,
eviscerate your entire producer base, then you're fucked.
Yeah, if the state is like making everyone poorer in order to achieve some arbitrary threshold of equality, obviously that's leads to poor outcomes as well, right? All that I'm saying is that all else equal, if everything about society was equal, except for, you know, basically the level of equality. I think that generally people, and I as well, would prefer more equality to less. However, again, there's many practical limitations to, you know, complete equality of outcome and not necessarily opportunity, but of outcome certainly.
I think even at some point, equality of opportunity as well, because you know if you have rich parents, they're going to be able to afford you more opportunities, right? And it's like, well, that's not fair. So, do you prevent them from doing that? I mean, at some point, it does
Well,
become
no,
ridiculous.
it's just a
Yes,
matter of
take
how do
your
you
money and give it to
empower.
me.
Ah, fuck off.
Yeah, no, I think it's just a matter of how do you empower people who don't have rich parents, right? And so I think that
Yeah.
like some of the stuff that I described, right? So like robust welfare programs, right? Equitably funded education programs, right? Stuff like that is how you can try to equalize that playing field. Ultimately, not everyone's going to be able to go to Harvard because number one, Harvard's really expensive, and number two, it's it's like was it like 30 or 40% of their admissions are legacy admissions anyway. And so, that's pretty rough. But again, the idea is like, how do we create a society where you don't have to go to Harvard to be successful?
Yeah. Also, we need state mandated GFs to make it equal.
That's true.
No more
Femboys,
incels.
actually.
Oh, femboys will work too. Whoever. But
Seize the means
yeah.
of reproduction.
yeah, no more incels. Because like that's also you have some top tier guys fucking all the girls. We're gonna go full red pill. You have some top tier guys fucking all the girls, and you have a bunch of low tier guys who get nothing. We got to equalize it.
Or.
Okay, Dranzer is next. You guys ready?
Of course.
Dranzer, let's go. Let's bring him in. Now this is a guy that I've seen a few times on. He's been in a few community events. So what's up, man?
Yeah, spare me the parasocial relationship bullshit. I came in here to get in a fight with a random communist. You, the retard with the blue icon. Okay, I don't know who you are. I don't really care.
No, don't be mean on my stream. Don't be an asshole. You're gonna be nice.
I'm not being an asshole. I'm being
why are
direct.
you
It's
here?
like
If you don't care, why are you here?
Because I believe in good television, okay? And I was expecting some people to come in here and throw shit, and everyone would laugh, and it would be great, and your viewers would get a kick out of it, and his viewers would get a kick out of it. I'm here for my. Okay, let's start with some real fucking basics. One, what is your political alignment in the simplest possible terms? Give me a label.
Ooh.
I'm an American Democrat.
Oh god, that fucking narrows it down.
You said the simplest possible label.
Okay.
Hold
on. Biden or AOC? Okay. Biden or AOC?
For president, I'd pick Biden over AOC.
Okay.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
Hey, I would too over between those two.
Actually. God, I suppose so. But then again, if you got Biden in your if you got Biden running the show, you basically don't have Biden running the show. You've got whoever the fuck's running Biden on running the show, right?
Biden 20 years ago, then.
Yeah, fine. What's your ideal final form of government?
I think present day Norway probably approximates a pretty good endpoint.
Oh shit! I have no understanding of what present day Norway is like. What is that? Well, just some fucking Northern European shithole?
It's a very robust and transparent democracy. Good social services, equitable taxing, good public education. I mean, all the stuff you'd want in a society, right?
All right, I'm probably just going to keep asking potentially provocative questions until I find something that we disagree on. Define capitalism in a fairly succinct.
Base. That's what it is.
Yeah, capitalism is the private ownership of the means of production.
The means of production. Okay, and the means of production. Can you be a bit more specific there? Because we might disagree on what the means of production are.
I mean, I think that typically the definition that people would use is revenue generating assets.
The 3D printer a means of production.
Yes.
Revenue generating assets. Revenue is wealth. God, that goes in a fucking circle, doesn't it?
Well, they all do. Eventually, that's what words are.
Look, it turns out, Dranzer, it sounds like we just agree on everything. So
he's
Oh, no,
angry
you're
about
getting out of
agreeing
this.
with you.
Hey, you commie fuck.
Well,
You're
here's the
not
thing.
getting
Okay,
out of this easy.
so yeah, so my
hmm.
entire audience says that Econoboi is a commie, but he's not. He's like a center-left liberal type of guy who wants healthcare, which is pretty reasonable to me.
I'm a capitalist. I'm a
Yeah.
Canadian capitalist.
Yeah.
God, Canadian capitalist. No, you know what? I got nothing. I got nothing.
Kick him
I
out,
was
short
looking
fat
for.
otaku.
Oh no!
Yeah,
He's done.
I'm out. Fucking Dev, you
Thanks,
still
man.
technically owe me a dump. Bye.
Bye.
British.
Oh, there he goes.
There we go. Turns out, bring on one of the more vitriolic short fat otaku fans. They just agree with me on everything.
Actually, wait,
Goodness.
hold on. See, Dranzer, if you're still listening, send me a DM right now. I'll look at it after the stream because I do have to set this. I do have to set that up with you. So, send me a DM so I don't forget. I'm gonna forget. Send it to me. Are you still in the room?
Don't send it to him.
I can't even see him in there.
Don't send it to him. Don't
Okay.
send him the fucking DM.
The next person is there. There's the DM. Der Lammergeier. Is this German? Yeah. Der Lammergeier.
I don't know.
It sounds German. Let's bring him in. Here we go.
Oh, you were gonna bring this person in. I thought this was like we're gonna set up an event or something.
No, here he is.
Let's do it.
Well, hello there, friends. How are you doing today?
You on your
great.
phone?
Yeah. You caught me on my way to the butcher's. I apologize.
Oh Jesus.
Oh God.
What's up?
What does that mean?
What? Wait, butcher's? I mean, I'm going to go get meat.
Yeah, the butcher's.
Gonna go get some meat.
Are you gonna like give the butcher the phone while? Okay, what's going on, dude?
No, so I wanted to jump into this chat here today to talk a little bit about where I think our country, and I'm gonna say I'm in the United States. I come from a very German background. I grew up there, and I have a very good exposure to a lot of what I think Econoboi would agree to be like the Norwegian style of government and equity within the people. Although I think they've been kind of slipping on that in the past decade or so with their shift from a society first and more. I don't want to get into the migrant crisis stuff, but I think that was a bad on Merkel's part in order to appease the more bleeding heart side of the country. Separate conversation. Let's push forward. I think in a lot of ways, the way that the United States has pushed for democracy across the board has been a bit of a mistake. And this kind of goes back to the conversation of the gentleman before who wanted, every 50 state to be their own country. I think the constant push for the popular vote to be the only deciding factor in elections is a bad idea for the country. I think that the Republican basis for the United States is what makes it a functional country. And if we decide to move over to a full-on democracy, we're actually going to run into more problems than solutions.
Well, I disagree. I mean, again, well, it depends on what outcomes you would associate with a republic, right? So, first of all, this is an incredible misreading of history when people say that the U.S. was not founded to have democratic principles. We're meant to be like a Roman-style republic, right? And that's not true because that's not how the founders, determined. Or that's not how they organized our government, right? I mean, we don't have a a merit-based voting system, or we don't have a system of where it's only sort of a heretical or a hereditary elite that control the legislative branch and stuff like that. And insofar as we moved even to more equality of at least democratic opportunity, being able to vote and stuff like that, I think those were all good moves, and the Electoral College never accomplished the goals of a republic anyway. It doesn't even accomplish the goals that some people think it does. It helps rural voters get represented. No, it doesn't, right? It helps smaller states get represented, not rural voters. I mean, New Jersey has more voting power than Texas, right? And Texas has a hell of a lot more rural voters than New Jersey does, right? And so, I think that many countries have moved towards a popular vote style system for electing president. We use the popular vote for everything else in this country, right? So for the House and the Senate, and so I don't see why the president would be much different in terms of outcome.
Well, and I believe my kind of perspective on that comes to the fact that if we move to an entirely popular vote, those flyover states, like the Democrats typically like to talk about, tend to go out the window with the, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, essentially. Because
they don't, though.
Kind of explain.
I mean, But that's not true though. Like Idaho, the flyover states, quote unquote, like the Midwestern states, right? Idaho, even Iowa, Montana, these states still just get flown over. Nobody gives a shit about those states in terms of an election. People care about Michigan and they care about Ohio and they care about Wisconsin, not because they're, proportionally underrepresented or represented in the Electoral College, because they're swing states, right? Like all the same states in a popular election would still be would still dominate most of the visitation from national candidates because it's just where most swing voters are, right? I mean, of course, if and we have to think about this from the candidate's perspective. If I was a candidate for president and my goal was to win the popular vote, well, I would still spend most of my time in the Rust Belt, in Florida, in North Carolina, New Hampshire, right? Because these are the purple states.
Okay, I can see that. Do you think that we would get more representation on the Republican scale, not the party, but the system of government, if we decided to move away from the winner-takes-all electoral system, kind of like how Maine handles a lot of their electoral business?
No, it would get worse in terms of the disproportionate representation of Republicans, or at the very least, if you care about like a proportional outcome, because right now, because we have a state that favors small states over large states, if we had a proportional system for electoral votes, so like if you won 55% of the vote in Texas, you'd get 55% of the electoral votes from Texas, that actually maximizes the small state bias towards whichever candidate wins smaller states, right? And so that would mean that you would have a lot of an advantage going into the Electoral College inherently as a Republican. Now, again, if you're a Republican, you might say that that's great, but I actually believe in democracy, and I believe that when people vote for something, generally it should happen. People, if you vote for something, if you believe in something, if you work within the rules of the system to elect people who agree with you, then your platform should be enacted, right? And so, no, I don't think that any system that smooths over the popular will of people is a good system. The thing that makes democracies work is buy-in. People have to feel like when they vote for something that it actually matters, right? And in America, unfortunately, we have a system where it turns out your vote doesn't actually matter, depending on where you live and depending on the circumstances of your political alignment, and that's bad for democratic health.
Uh-oh, hold on. You're dude.
Shit.
Dude, you're roboting. Dude.
He's roboting. Kick him.
Well, hold on.
Kick him out. He's
let's
done.
Let's give him one more chance. Are you okay? Try talking. Go.
I'm here.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
That was fun.
Calm down all of a sudden.
What's up?
Oh no.
Get him out of here, Dev.
Yeah.
It's called Get
Dude,
Better
I'm sorry,
Internet,
but your
okay?
mic, you're dying. I'm sorry. We gotta go. Sorry, man.
Build your own internet company if you don't like it.
Jesus. All right. Well, that was Der Lammergrier. I can't pronounce German names, but thank you for being here. Sorry that your internet didn't work out. Yeah, see, so Econoboi, we've actually talked about this before, and I'm like 51-49 on the Electoral College. I could be convinced otherwise, but I think it's probably okay the way it is, but I'm on the edge of being convinced. At the same time, though, I absolutely like the Senate the way that it is, where it's 2 seats per Senate, per state, regardless of population of the state. Because I do think that area representation matters just as much as people representation, because...
What
yeah,
about
I mean,
term limits, Dev?
Term limits?
if you have a
I'm also
very-
kind of I'm so on that too. I don't know about term limits. Maybe.
If you got a horizontal country like America, like maybe a Senate makes sense, like in the EU, right? The further federalization of the EU should probably come with some equally apportioned body. But what I will say is about the Senate is that, again, it just doesn't represent the views of voters very well, right? For instance, here's an example. Georgia, in the last 2 Senate elections in Georgia, voted basically 51-49 for Democrats, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, even though half of the people in Georgia voted for a Republican, they have 100% of their senators are Democrats, right? So I'm okay with an equally apportioned Senate, right, conceptually, but the result should be proportional to the state, right? So if you've got a situation where 51% of people voted for a Democrat and 49% of people voted for a Republican, probably you should just have 1 and 1. You should have 1 Democrat and 1 Republican. And so we should have like a state level proportionally representative Senate allotment. And I would argue probably the same for House members as well, although people get more sensitive for House members because those are like district elections versus statewide elections.
Yeah.
And so and that would lead to, I think, to me at least, more equitable outcomes. It's like, hey, let's have 4 senators per state, and then let's proportion them, equally. So that way, in Alabama, for instance, if you've got like 70% of people voting for Republican senators, okay, well, we'll have 1 Democrat and 3 Republicans. In Texas, if it's like, 60 to 40, okay, well, we'll have half and half, right? Just make it roughly proportional, because obviously you can't have like infinite people in the Senate, but that to me is what would make the most sense.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of people. I think the last person that I saw really talk about this was Philosophy Tube, and the video basically said something like, "We should have the Senate should just be exactly a copy of the House." And it's like, well, why have it then? Like what?
Well, yeah, it doesn't. I don't know why we would have it then. Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah,
make
I
much
mean,
sense to me.
the purpose of the Senate is that each state gets the same number of seats regardless of the population or size of the state, because you have to represent regional interests somehow. So that makes sense to me. It's like, well, yeah, California has 100 times more people than Nebraska, but Californians don't live in Nebraska,
Yeah.
It's that sort of thing. So that makes sense to me.
Also,
Is that true?
all the
I
territories,
think so, yeah.
all the territories should have an in-out referendum. They should either be their own country or be a state. Okay, all this colonial nonsense needs to go away. It's a relic of the past.
Colonize the whole world, Econoboi. That's how it should be.
Yeah. Well, hey, I mean, look, Puerto Ricans are American citizens. They just can't vote in presidential elections. It's pretty fucking stupid if you ask me. So.
All right.
Just incorporate them.
Hold on. What the fuck is this name? I know who this
If they
guy
want to
is.
join.
This is Sir Socks, but his name is kind of weird. Okay? So I'm going to bring him in. Here. Let's invite him in.
Okay.
Nice name, buddy.
Why, thank you.
I hope you're black.
No.
Shit.
It's a reference to the very famous YouTube video of a very old white preacher and his wife.
Oh,
saying
yeah, that. Oh, I know what you're talking about. I know. Okay, so what's up, man?
Oh, well, let's see. First of all, the Necrons in Warhammer 40k. I'm not going to go there. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
No, I was intrigued by the thumbnail, so I thought I'd jump in and see what was going on. I didn't realize we were gonna have like a whole live debate thing, so it's like, okay, let's
that
dig
is
up
what
a couple questions here.
Well, I mean, that's what the thumbnail is, right? I mean, Econoboi, you saw the thumbnail
Yeah.
of this stream, right?
I did.
It's a pretty good thumbnail, I think.
Pretty good one. It's a pretty good one.
Yeah, having listened for a little bit now, I'm kind of like, oh man, I don't think we'd agree on a whole lot. So let's
right.
throw out some questions there. First of all, have you ever heard of the Filtree's political simulator, sort of political compass thing?
What?
I know what the political compass test is. I don't know. I don't know what the Filtrees, whatever you described is.
Yeah, it's a specific one that you basically use a bunch of menus to sort of design the government from the ground up. And I think that it'd be a fun thing to use for a stream, I would think, for someone who does a major political channel. But I don't know. It seems like this one kind of goes under the radar for a lot of people. I don't know why.
What's it called?
But,
What's it called?
Filtrees. I'll spell it out for you here. It's
just DM it to me. I'll check it out after, man.
All
Sure.
right. All right,
Sure.
I'll dump DM for you. All right, but yeah, I am a. Sorry, just sending you that DM real quick, so it's.
Yep, no problem.
And I don't forget about it.
You're a fascist. We get it. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, just straight up, Francisco Franco, my hero. But no, my question to you would be: earlier there was discussion on why gold as the sole point of a currency would be necessarily less than ideal, but what would you say about having, say, a network of multiple resources as the backing to a currency?
I mean, that's kind of already what we have, right? I mean, again, a fiat currency is based on confidence, but again, that confidence is based on, institutional strength and material assets, right? So like the United States, dollars, the confidence of the dollar is based on, the natural wealth and institutional strength of the country, which includes, of course, all the material wealth of the country as well.
Right, but I was thinking more on the stripped down lines of, instead of just confidence in the nation, it'd be backed exclusively by the values of the materials itself. So instead of just having straight gold,
Yeah,
to
I mean,
say
so instead of
gold,
having,
silver, steel, oil, etc.
yeah, taking out basically the institutional strength component of confidence in currency. I mean, I get that. I don't see that. Just again, I think that this is an example where government involvement, ironically, would be probably less optimal than just choosing gold, right? Because now we're trusting bureaucrats to determine what mix of goods makes sense, right? To what proportion do they make sense, and how do we change that over time? Whereas I think just having a free floating currency where people can say, yeah, this is how much I think the dollar is worth, right? And I just think that's a little bit easier than having this more fitted, more sort of basket of goods style currency in general. I don't see the purpose of it. The fiat currency system works pretty well.
All right, and I had this idea a few years ago, and I wanted to bounce it off of you. What would you say to if you got your tax papers in, and among the tax papers was a list of the different government departments, and instead of the government deciding what to budget to, you as a citizen could decide how much as a percentage of your tax dollars do you want going to each given field of the government?
Yeah, people have talked about this before. Having mandatory taxes, but like you can basically choose where to put the money. I mean, I think I'd love to see an experiment on that. I'd love to see a city or like some local government say like, hey, we're gonna make 5% of the funds that we take in discretionary, right? So you just tell us where you want us to spend the money, and we'll send the money there. I think it'd be interesting to see how that would work out. Without any empirical examples, I'm pretty skeptical of it. Because I feel like we'd probably end up with a lot of, very likely a lot of selfish outcomes, right? So like wealthy people might choose to like underfund police or something like that, and like lower income people wouldn't have a lot of money that they could send around. And I don't know. I think that we want equitable outcomes for taxation, and I'm not sure if we allowed people to decide where those dollars go, we would end up with those outcomes, because it would just be the people with the most dollars that would have the most influence, which again in a democracy is not something we'd really want. So I'm pretty skeptical of that system, but I don't know. Maybe an experiment or something it'd be interesting to see the result of an experiment like that.
Well, I'd expect someone who's wealthy enough to maybe have enough of a bird's eye view, because I've never been like the sort of 6-figure income kind of bracket, so I really couldn't say what a wealthier person would say. But as someone who lived in like the sort of $30,000 to $40,000 household income kind of neighborhood, what I've experienced is I would be able to see, hey, we need more money into this particular thing, and why are we wasting so much money on that particular thing? Like, frankly, I think spending all of our military assets supporting the independence of a whole bunch of nations like Germany and France and England, who all have their own economies back up and running. They shouldn't need our 1950s vintage protections, but we keep them in place because that keeps them kind of on side, I guess.
I mean, well, I'm not sure how much foreign aid we really give to those countries. If you were to take like military and foreign aid as a percentage of those countries' GDPs, it's actually not that much, right? So I mean, the prospect of those countries, being able to do without that aid is actually pretty realistic. But of course, insofar as we're offering it for free, they'll take it. But I just don't think that's actually by magnitude that big of a problem.
And I think it's kind of a big deal when we're effectively offering a giant military umbrella over most European nations, and then effectively they can spend the money however they want now. They don't have to arm all their soldiers for training, to the extent that it was 2012 that a story came out in Germany where they were using broomsticks to simulate machine guns because they couldn't afford enough.
Well, I mean, look, I think that all of these countries, Germany, France, Italy, I mean, they've all got, professional militaries and, trained militaries and stuff. Of course, they don't spend it like we do. Of course, the capital investment per soldier is probably the highest in America. We have the most well-equipped and well-trained military. We also spend a lot more than everyone else, right? But I think that that's changing to some extent, right? We see a lot of countries in response to the Ukraine war, invest a ton of extra money into their military. Like I think Germany was the biggest one. They announced like an extra $100 billion going to their military, which was, I mean, that was an incredibly huge increase, basically. So, I think that that makes some sense for them to do. But I also don't think that we need to withdraw that military support. Again, I think that military support actually buys a lot of influence and allows us to export our culture to many parts of the globe. So
It's not just that; it's also that if not the Americans, then someone else would be there doing it, and that's probably not good for us.
China.
Yeah, but I think that if we had maybe started pulling them back in the 70s and 80s as their economies were growing, then they could have been more readily equipped for this instead of basking under the protection of the United States until suddenly Russia makes a move on Ukraine. Suddenly they realize, oh, hey, we actually need to have a serious
Military.
standing military, not something to
Well,
try
but
and
Ukraine, I
NATO.
think Ukraine's probably the worst example though, because Ukraine, over the course of the decade following the Crimea annexation, had been reaching out to partners, developing its military more and more, sending military units into Donbass, and that's one of the reasons why Russia's actually doing so badly in this conflict is because Russia hasn't had like a ground troop conflict, at least a significant one, in a long, long time. They have really good special forces and they've got really good generals because a lot of those generals come from the Cold War era, but they're very top heavy. Or like specially heavy, whereas Ukraine had been rotating their entire army in and out of the Donbass and the what's the other region again, the Luhansk or something like that.
Luhansk,
They've been
yeah.
rotating
Yeah.
They've been rotating their army through those combat zones basically for the last decade, to try and suppress the sort of pro, Russia fucking insurgencies that were happening there. And so by the time Russia invaded, Ukraine actually had a very combat-ready army, right? And that's one of the reasons why Ukraine's been able to give Russia such a hard time in this invasion, is because Russia is relying on like undertrained, under-equipped, people who are functionally not a very professional army at this point, whereas Ukraine's the
Conscripts and
opposite.
mercs.
Yeah,
I don't think it's literally conscripts in Russia, but it's just like
it's gonna be soon. Have you seen that
army,
news?
I have seen that, but
Yeah.
and that's
Until then,
not a
they've
good
been
sign for
relying
Russia.
on the local militia forces, the separatists from like
Yeah, a lot of those guys. Yeah.
those regions.
And
Yeah.
it's also modern warfare is probably the hardest warfare to wage, right? And Russia just wasn't prepared for that either. And it's just not I don't know. I disagree though that I think Ukraine is a unique example where they actually were prepared for that kind of thing. And again, I mean, if we look at the monetary backing of NATO, right, compared to like these other countries, right? I think NATO has a military budget, like a combined military budget of like 20 times that of Russia, and like much higher than that of even Russia and China combined. And so, the prospect of a conflict between like even just the European nations and Russia, I mean, Russia would get shit stomped in that conflict. It wouldn't even be close, I don't think. And of course, it might go to nuclear war. But I think the idea that European countries are like completely unprepared for like a Russian invasion, even without U.S. help, I don't think that that's true.
Well, you mentioned how much money goes into NATO, but if you broke it down, a lot of European countries didn't keep up with what they were expected to fulfill, and the U.S. kind of
Yeah.
helped boost them up to that point.
No, that's true. Like Russia, the United States, to a significant degree, subsidizes the military readiness of Europe. That's true. I'm not going to disagree with that. I'm just saying that even if the U.S. completely withdrew from Europe, like I don't think that Russia or China would be particularly capable in terms of being able to like invade or take over Europe. Look at how much of a hard time they had just dealing with Ukraine, which was one of the poorest countries in Europe. I mean, imagine Russia trying to invade like the UK or something like that, absent nuclear armaments, which of course many countries in Europe have nuclear arms. Yeah, like it wouldn't be close. Like the British military is much more capable than the Russian military for a number of reasons. And so I just
well, there's also the fact
skeptical of that.
There's also the fact that we really don't want to uncuck the Germans at this point. Like we've had 80 years of relative peace with the Germans, and we don't want to rile them up again. Can we just keep going the way we're going, please?
Yes, but what if we rile up the Germans, but they're on our side this time?
That's true. Little did we know, World War III, also the Germans' fault.
All of this.
But anyway. All right. Do we want to get another caller, or do you have any other
Yes.
questions?
I think that's. I mean, you asked a few. I think you're. Are you set, dude, or you want like? Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't have a whole lot coming in, so I was just trying to think
Get
of
the
stuff while I
fuck
was
out of
listening.
here, then.
All right, thanks, man. Thanks for being here.
All right, see ya.
Thanks for being here.
So, there was actually a question that he asked that I wanted to follow up on, but I forgot it. Shit, what were the questions that he asked?
Probably a bad question.
So there was the like European readiness one, but what was one before that?
I don't remember.
Shit.
I've got goldfish memory.
I know he talked about like $1 backed on more than just gold at the start.
He did.
I forget the middle one though. I can't remember the middle one. Oh well. Because I had a question for you. Oh well. So, oh god, the next person on the list is fucking Rataniel the Brave. Okay, so
who's that?
This guy is probably the most notorious troll who's been around my
Okay.
community for years. I expect him to come in and just be shrieking the N-word, okay?
Okay.
So let's get ready.
Dev,
Daddy, yeah?
Just so you know, Red isn't trolling. That's his genuine opinion. I'm not shitting you.
Wait, what opinion? Where do you post it?
Like, no. I'm just saying, like, Red isn't a troll. Whenever he does something, it's because he means it.
Are you fucking serious? I don't believe that.
I'm totally fucking serious, dude. I just want to point that out before you drag him in. It's okay. Have fun.
Fun.
Oh god, this is okay. All right, Rat Boy, are you ready? Come on in, Rat Boy. I've invited you. Hello.
Let's fucking go.
All right, are we finally going to fucking Birmingham? Yeah? Okay. What? What are you doing?
Right.
What
is your stance on the expansion of the Under Empire?
Shut the fuck up! Shut up! Do you have a real question, Rat Boy?
There's two charitable ones that some people left.
Okay.
That I'm going to do before I do the meme shit.
Right.
Someone asked, what is your opinion on universal basic income?
Okay. Might as well talk about one first.
I think UBI is fine. I probably like a negative income tax more for political reasons, but and for like distributive purposes. But UBI is a pretty cool policy.
Then someone else said, are you a Rebecca main, or do you have a different girl you simp for?
I don't know who Rebecca is.
Don't ask me, that's not mine.
Right.
Hold on. Okay. Do you have?
Is it Cyberpunk Edge Runners or something?
I think it's
Because there's a
Cyberpunk. Yeah.
Rebecca there.
Yeah. I think it's Cyberpunk.
Also, I dislike all the insults I'm getting in your chat.
Okay, hold on. Rat Boy, do you have a real economics question?
Or any question?
I also had to correct you. The difference between, the value of Warpstone.
All right. He's gone. He's just gonna talk about Warhammer the whole fucking time.
Damn. Censorship. Did you guys just see that Dev's audience? Dev just censored one of his own audience members. It's
Unbelievable. Whatever happened to your principles?
actually entirely believable. He's Canadian and they don't believe in free speech over there. Jesus Christ.
Oh god, Rat Boy is trying to come in and out.
No. Dev did the right thing. Red is probably the most statistic person I know on Discord. I'm just saying that.
Yeah.
Fair.
Listen, Rat Boy.
Yeah,
Stop coming in and out of the fucking room. We're not going to bring you in again. Here's the thing, like I've actually had to ban him a few times because he's gone like overboard and it's like, dude, like I like that you're ridiculous, but just chill the fuck out. And sometimes he just doesn't chill the fuck out.
Has he said slurs on stream?
Silencing free
all the time.
speech. Yeah,
all the time.
Dev. Unbelievable.
All the time. Okay. The next guy is Vicar Stead. He is a longtime member of my community as well. Let's bring in Vicar Stead. What's up, man? Wait. There he is. Hi.
Hello. Is the audio all good?
Yep.
The
Okay,
audio
one
is
Brit
good.
to another. Hopefully, I'm less of a stereotype.
Wait,
and
who's
less
the
autistic too.
no one else here is a Brit but you, man.
Well, no, rats. You know.
Does he really count though?
Well, that's true. Half Brit, half rat.
I mean, he's from Birmingham, and they're all like imports there now, aren't they?
Well, I mean, at least in the center of Birmingham. I actually used to be close to Birmingham.
Oh,
so
I'm sorry.
No, I know. Thank you for your condolences.
So what's up, man?
Well, what's up is like this sort of obviously I asked you in DM and I knew it'll be today, but I think the time was discussed was like 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
We had to change it up because Lilith has to go. She has to go in a little bit.
Of course, yeah, and
it's
yeah,
all
that caught me
Lilith's
by
fault.
surprise. Yes, well, I had a life, so I couldn't check Discord, but so I guess I didn't have any loads of questions prepared to be sort of discussing with Econoboi, but I did come up with sort of one query, maybe as a like to start off with, maybe as a kind of abstract idea of what Econoboi believes, and so I think it's largely based on when he's sort of given answers, he's sort of he's criticized things like the gold standard, and I actually share some of those criticisms, or like I agree with them. But a bit like with you, Dev, it's sort of like I half agree and then half disagree, and part of that is you say, oh, the gold standard is bad because it has these flaws. Therefore, the current system is good. It's much better. It works. No questions asked. We don't need to sort of worry about that so much. Less with the UDev. I feel like that's more of a recurring theme with Econoboi. So I guess the first abstract question is, do you believe that there are flaws with the current system? And do you think that just because other systems that people propose have issues, that means those issues are enough to make the current system just look so much better?
Well, yeah, I mean, the burden of anyone proposing a new system is to prove that it's better than the current system that we have, right? And so, if you can't demonstrate that, then I'm not gonna, I certainly wouldn't advocate for that system. It's similar to like, communism or socialism, right? Like, obviously, I'm gonna say like, yeah, there's obviously problems with capitalism. There's problems with markets, right? But if you can't prove to me either through empirics or through theory that your system is better than the current one, well, I'm going to say that we're going to probably want to keep the current system, right? And so similarly, there's some problems with the fiat currency, right? I mean, obviously, when you mix fiat currencies with democratic governments, you can have mismanagement of the currency. You can have hyperinflation, like we already mentioned, talked about before. If you have weak institutions, that problem becomes even harder. And some countries just might not be ready to institutionally manage a fiat currency. So yeah, I mean, certainly those are some problems with the fiat currency system, and I feel like I have spoken about those actually. But when it comes to gold standard, though, I mean, those problems are actually also present, and there's other problems with the gold standard that make it less preferable than a fiat currency.
Well, yeah, again, it's like it's sort of half agreement, half disagreement, and another thing that's emerged is this sort of dissolution of the sort of knowledge and belief distinction. And what I mean by that more is like when you say people need to bring up their arguments and they need to satisfy a higher burden of proof to sort of convince me otherwise that the current system is bad. And from a belief system, that is true in the sense of like any legitimate reason why you might believe or disbelieve things. Well, you're going to need to convince me, right? But I feel like if you want to have a more higher standard of knowledge, you can't rely on the person arguing me is bad at arguing as a fallback to sort of say, well, I need to dismiss their criticisms, or not even dismiss, but sort of say they're wrong. So I guess like for a more specific point as well, when you said, and in Dev as well, that the gold standard was very unstable, that is true. There were periods of very high inflation and deflation that sort of spiked up and down. But I think the point, and sometimes some gold standard advocates miss this, and because there are problems with it. But the point of it is that in the long run, which is what matters for economic growth, because this happened in the long term, things were more stable, or at least in the sense of it averaged out to zero. There wasn't a continuous period in inflation that lasted more than half a generation, say, or so, a generation with the gold standard or the gold and silver standard before.
Yeah.
And because of that, they look at it as being a better system and go, they conclude, therefore, it's great, we need to return to the gold standard. So they commit this kind of same problem
Yeah, but
I've identified here.
I think talking about average inflation is a little bit misleading, right? Because when when we want low and stable, or low and stable inflation, right? That the stable is
Why
a
do you
key
want low and
component too.
stable inflation?
Well, I mean, yeah, I'll ask sort of thought exercise, right? So if we imagine not inflation, but if we imagined incomes, right? So let's say that one year we make 100 grand, the next year we make zero, the next year we make 100 grand, the next year we make zero, and so on and so forth, versus someone just having a $50,000 salary. Now, the reason that, at least from a financial perspective, I would much prefer someone to just have a $50,000 salary average, on average, or at least me personally, I prefer that. It's much easier to budget, it's much easier to anticipate, versus if you have like this, this volatile 100 and zero, every other year thing, where it's actually, obviously, if you can expect that you're going to have 100 and zero, you can budget for that. But if it's, 100 and then 20 and then 80 and then, and it's actually very, very volatile, but it's centered around some mean, that's not quite as preferable from a business or budgeting perspective as just having a stable salary. And so similar when it comes to prices, right? The reason you prefer a stable scenario when it comes to prices, or low and stable scenario, is that from businesses to households, you're able to budget for that better and deal with those increases or potential decreases better, depending on what your sort of target rate is. If you have a credible central bank, and again, people talk about the the inflation that we're experiencing today, but of course they're neglecting the 40 years of relatively either disinflationary or low and stable inflationary environment that we had for the last 40 years, which was certainly on the back of what I'm advocating for, which is a strong fiscal authority and a credible central bank that controls inflation, at least in part with interest rates.
Well, okay, sure. In certain circumstances, or even in general, it's a good sort of virtue as well, like a good thing to be able to predict the future, be able to plan around that. That allows for long-term business contracts, which is usually the case with businesses supplying other businesses. You want to be able to have a steady outlook of the future, so you know what's going to happen. So you don't have unmitigated risks, for example. That is definitely true. But as part of, first of all, like that would be the sort of same if in 10 years, the inflation, like the currency will be valued about the same as it is now, or like even a year from now, because there might be a spike one month, but the next month it'll go down and up and so forth.
Well, but that's not as
So
relevant
you can
as
still
inflation,
predict. It's not random. There isn't like an inflation period for like 5 months, and then for 1 month it's deflation, and then for 1 month it's stable, and then deflation, and then inflation, and then
Well,
continue.
that is how it was under the gold standard.
It
though,
wasn't,
right?
because it was stable in long term. So this was the case with the British pound, for example, under again a central bank, which I agree. I'm not anti-central bank, unlike some people, but they have to be managed well. And the Bank of England, for most of its period, was managed well, and the British pound had a very long period of not being inflationary, like modern currencies, like the mod pound or dollar, or massively deflationary over the long term. So it was achievable, and that coincided. Obviously, correlation does not equal causation, but it coincided with a very good period for Britain in economic growth. So that's my point: is that sure, it could vary a lot, but then again, it's not the case that even now, or like before the sort of early 2020s, with sort of constant inflationary period, quote unquote, that there weren't sudden changes. Like with the Great Recession, there was a period of deflation that was unexpected. So you can't get rid of risk and uncertainty, even in your quote unquote carefully managed modern central banking system. But it's sort of, if you create conditions or facilitate conditions, I should say, that facilitate long-term economic growth for as many people as possible, because the whole idea of equality of opportunities. I think that's the goal we aspire to, and not businesses should know the future so that they can sort of have a captive market, which sometimes happens when you have a lot.
Well, I said
I hate
businesses
to use
and
the word
households,
status,
right?
but there you go.
It helps
Sorry, go
everyone.
on.
Businesses and households, right? It helps everyone, right? The point is just to say that I think we have different definitions of stability, right? So any time series for the most part in economics is going to be like mean reverting, right? But we wouldn't say that we have like necessary stability just because something's mean reverting, right? So a gold standard might revert back to zero, or like if you took a time series of gold standard inflation over time, and maybe the average inflation is like slightly above 1%, slightly below 1%, or zero. That doesn't mean that it's stable. Stable means low variance, right? And certainly the gold standard did not have low variance in my view. And I think that after the Volcker shock of basically the Volcker shock, establishing the credibility of the Fed. Since then, we've had, and this is the case across all of the developed world, right? The pretty credible central banks controlling inflation, having much lower and stable prices than the gold standard did.
Well, this was what I was sort of getting onto as well, kind of the idea of different ideas of definition of stability, because obviously, yeah, things are more stable, or until the recent inflationary shock were more stable in the sense of you could, again, predict that inflation would be constant and at a low level, but that would still be an increase over time, which if you compared the currency of any major world economy, not even just like Argentina or whatever, from what it was 20 years ago, yeah, there's been a massive increase. It wasn't stable in another sense of the word, which was, it was a very little positive net
Well, sure,
change.
but we're massively wealthier than we were back before when we had the gold standard, right?
So some schools of thought in economics believe that, yeah, if you have inflation, low inflation, that causes that. But that's not universal. So it can't be really said that, oh, we had low inflation and we also had good, quote unquote, economic growth. Therefore, the inflation caused that, or we need low inflation growth, because we have examples in history of times of good economic growth, better even than now, when there was a lot more inflation, less inflation than now, no inflation, like it was an average, again, as I was saying, or even deflation.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to engage in
sort of
historical
independent
analysis. That's true. I'm not saying that that's not true, right? But yeah, the only point is just to say that all else equal, you prefer stability to instability in economics, right? And fiat currency, it seems to have empirically provided that for a number in a number of ways.
Well, all else equal, I think I believe is more preferable for the value of the currency to be stable rather than changing, even if slowly, even if the rate of exchange is stable, the actual value that isn't stable. I guess that might be the distinction, like the actual absolute value versus the acceleration of value, because obviously that's what we mean by spikes and falls. It's like, oh, it's accelerating up and then down and up, but it averages out to something different. That's what we're talking. I'm conscious we've hit the 10-minute mark, so we just had a kind of a bit of a nonsense round.
We have actually hit it, yeah.
Inflation. Yeah.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Okay, Vicar, I know that you and Zen-chan, you do like your podcast. Maybe I could set you up with Econoboi sometime to have like a really deep dive of some stuff, if you wanted Econoboi.
Econoboi's like, no,
yeah, maybe. I'm not familiar with Vicar's work, I guess. So maybe.
Well,
I'm not sure.
Well, I don't. Zen really was the one who came up with the podcast idea. He's sort of the main guy in terms of that. I don't make a lot of information, but I'm a co-host.
Yeah, so you're like the libertarian, and Zen is the socialist who calls himself a libertarian.
I mean, like, again, I disagree with libertarians quite a bit. Like,
I know he's listening right now. I'm just pulling his chain.
Obviously, but yeah, he does hate land, and people have joked about him being like Mao Zedong. He will liquidate the landlord.
Mao Zedong.
All right, man. Well, thanks for being here, dude.
Yes.
Well, I know that you watch. Yeah, I know you watch all my stuff, so I'll see you. I'll see you again soon.
Yeah, I call you cringe. Reply to my response. Follow me back on Twitter with your new unbanned account.
Listen, I'm gonna take like 3 months off Twitter before I come back. Okay, I'm like hyper banned at this point.
He needs a new IP.
Yeah. Thank goodness for that.
All right, see you later, man.
Yeah, see you. Take care.
Okay, Lilith, are you awake?
Oh yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so before we get on to the next thing, there's something very important that we must discuss. We're taking we're taking an emergency break from the stream. Okay?
Oh, no. Okay.
Because something just fucking happened. We're talking like just a few minutes ago.
What happened?
Breaking news, guys. Xi Jinping has been removed from chairman of the military commission's post. And there's currently a suspected military coup in China right now.
What?
Yep.
Really?
Special forces gathering at the Shenyang military airport under the orders of another guy, Li Gaoming? It's another guy. There's a military coup in China. Chinese
if a military coup is happening in China, that would be shocking. That was not a country I expected to have a military coup.
Chinese airspace has been completely emptied out. All flights are being rerouted around China, except for a few. It looks like maybe military flights. That's something that's going on right now. Yep.
Man,
Xi
Li
Jinping.
Li Qiaoming looks like
I
one
saw
hard motherfucker.
Yeah.
an article from Outlook India that says fact checked is China having a coup and is Xi Jinping under house arrest.
Yeah.
Apparently they're saying no, but
This one from India TV says he is under house arrest.
huh.
And from
Well, who knows? Give it a
yeah,
day. We'll find out tomorrow.
yeah. India Post, under house arrest. Beijing is currently under army control, and the media in China is silent. Of course, they would be in this kind of situation, you know.
That would be interesting if it is true, though.
Like I
But,
said,
like,
give it a
it
day.
some
We
time.
can't. It's hard to comment on breaking news.
Yeah, I just want. Well, here's the thing. I receive like 50 fucking DMs from people. A few of my mods and like a bunch of other viewers are like, "You gotta talk about this." And I was like, "Jesus, all right." Now, from what I know about China, it's not outside the realm of possibility that it might be a shit show over there. You know, like who knows, right? Who knows? But we should probably wait a day or two just before like really digging into it. So let's continue. You guys good to get back to it?
Yeah, I've got. I can do maybe 30 more minutes.
Oh, you're running out of time too? Shit. Oh God, hold
Yeah,
on. How
man.
many?
We've been
One, two,
going 3
three,
hours.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 12 more people to go.
Let's do it.
Oh my God, I'm sorry, everyone. A lot of you aren't gonna get it. Oh God, I feel bad now. I'm sorry, guys.
There's always next time if Econoboi wants
Yeah.
to do more.
If you want to come back on, we can do the others if you like. Someday.
I don't like any of your community members. Never again.
Okay. Here, let's bring in Artemis Fowl. Let's go. What's up, man?
Let's go.
What's going on? Can you
Hey.
hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So I got a few issues here. But first, let's start off with some of my background. I am a person that did not grow up wealthy. I grew up in an average income. I make about $160,000 a year now, just being going through the military and then getting a specialty that is useful outside of the military, and then increasing my knowledge base. You have somebody else that's just entered the room.
What? Who
invited?
What?
Do you
What?
want me to go back to being muted again, or?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Well,
Anyways.
no, I'm going to remove you from the thing.
Weird.
Because it ruins my overlay on the stream.
Yeah. So I have a few issues here with your framing and Econoboi. On a few things here. I think they might be more naive and less,
Okay.
interacting with how things are in the real world. I don't. There's not a whole better way to frame that. So just forgive me. So first, fiat currency. You said that fiat currency is based and tied to the wealth of a nation, among other things.
So it's tied to the wealth of a nation backed with the institutional strength of that nation.
Okay, can you go in more in depth into the institutional strength?
Yeah, sure. So, the U.S. dollar, right? Why is it valuable? It's because the U.S. is probably the most powerful country on earth based on military and economic power.
Yep.
So that's one thing. And then when it comes to institutional strength, right? People believe in the U.S. dollar because they believe that the U.S. government will be responsible in terms of its management of the U.S. dollar as a currency, right? We don't expect hyperinflation from the U.S. dollar, and so that's why you've got people who like the U.S. dollar.
Okay, so I'm going to say to most of that no. So do you know why we invaded Iraq?
You tell me.
Well, you should know this. Why did we invade Iraq and overthrow Saddam Hussein?
Okay, so we invaded Iraq, or Iraq, I should say, for a number of reasons. Some people say it was to export democracy. I think that really the big part of it was
the
that
actual reason.
George Bush.
Yeah,
I
go
think
ahead.
George Bush and the neocons' ideology was the idea that the U.S. is able to increase its geopolitical reach and power by overthrowing and also gain sort of international clout by overthrowing certain members of certain governments that are more brutal to their citizens, and by doing that, we can gain resource and geopolitical advantage. A la Iraq.
So, in the lead up to the Iraq invasion, we didn't go into Iraq because we didn't really have a need to before, after we pushed them out of Kuwait. After that
Oh my
point,
God, I think I know what you're gonna say. Go on.
So Saddam Hussein was rejected the petrodollar and then moved into selling
I knew
oil.
that's what you're gonna say.
And what?
Wait,
And
what's
this is
going
the
on?
case.
I don't quite understand how you knew.
So,
What's...
so Saddam.
The idea that we've invaded Iraq because they were moving off of the dollar.
Okay, so I'll explain it more coherently. Saddam Hussein refused to use only U.S. dollar to purchase oil and gas. This is an agreed upon thing that the United States has with the rest of the world, that the rest of the world tries to trade oil and gas and anything other than the United States dollar, we will go in and fuck up their nation, which is what we did to Iraq as a show of force.
Yeah.
Oh.
Why aren't we doing that to Saudi Arabia and Iran? They're doing the same
because
thing.
they are largest one oil partners, and two,
Iran
is. Oh no, not Iran. Iran has the backing of Russia, and Iran has a couple of nuclear devices and technologies.
So Iran doesn't have any nuclear weapons, and I don't think that Russian backing really matters very much.
Calm down. So Iran,
I'm actually entirely calm. You're making really dumb points.
No, it's not dumb. Reason we don't go into Iran is that the Iranians are pretty much segregated from the rest of the world, except for a few other economies. But they have been developing nuclear technologies, which is why Israel keeps killing off their scientists.
Yeah, but your model of the world doesn't work. If the model is go off of the petrodollar, we'll invade you. Well, we should be invading Iran and Saudi Arabia then.
How much of Iran's oil is exported? How much of it does it affect the market at all?
Yes, to a significant degree. Iran is one of the most oil wealthy nations in the world.
Oil wealthy versus actually okay. This is getting off the point.
They export millions of barrels a day. It's a shitload.
It is far eclipsed by the rest of the nations that export. But we're getting slightly
right. But then why do we invade Iraq? Iraq, certainly eclipsed by many other productive nations in the world. Why do we invade Iraq and not Iran? Your model just doesn't work.
Hold on.
What you're saying doesn't make sense.
Hold on. We invaded Iraq right after Afghanistan because it was an easy target. We went into Afghanistan because of 9/11, and Iraq being where it was an easy target to get rid of them under the justification and guise of removing terrorism.
Right.
See,
you can
I
have
actually
the
disagree with
exact
both
same
of you.
justification with Iran.
Hold on, I actually disagree with both of you. I think that sorry, not we. I'm not part of this. I think the Americans went into Iraq mainly because George Bush felt like he had to finish the job his dad started. I think for him it was like a dynasty thing, at least personally.
Well, some people do that. Look, I mean, I think the real answer is that it's just there's a confluence of factors that led to the Iraq invasion. There were some good intentions, probably mostly bad intentions, to be frank, if you ask me. But no, I mean, this more conspiratorial view of Iraq was moving marginally away from using dollars to transact with its oil. That's why we invaded Iraq. Well, no, that doesn't make sense. There's many numbers of examples of other countries doing that we haven't invaded. So.
Were they allies?
What examples though? Just to steelman this.
Iran, Saudi Arabia.
Are there any more?
Hold on. Saudi Arabia, up until recently, has been trading in nothing but U.S. dollars. Like they barely have been even touching, rubles, and even then, they're only doing it to purchase Russian gas, not selling their own.
Well,
I don't know how that's even that's not even close. Iran is the only one you have so far. Well, any others, please?
Okay. Any others what?
Any other examples?
Examples of what?
Like anybody else selling and nothing outside of the petrodollar?
Like I said, Saudi Arabia and Iran. If you want me to come up with a list, I can. But again, the only point is that those are a couple examples that go against your point that we'll just invade any country that gets off the petrodollar or the U.S. Why we're calling it a petrodollar, but yeah, the petrodollar.
It's colloquially called the petrodollar. I mean, but that's because it's the world reserve currency. I mean, it's
right.
So my point is that we have shown that we will invade a country under the implicit threat of this thing, and because of what the 7 wars in 7 years, when talking attacking like what was Gaddafi from? That was
Libya, I think. Eh?
Libya, yeah, Libyan stuff like that. I guess we can move on from the fiat currency issue. I guess we're not just going to agree with the reasoning here.
Okay.
Electoral college. You were You were talking about how the representing doesn't represent voting percentages, and it's not a very democratic system. Is that true?
Well, so the electoral college disproportionately allocates votes to small states.
Yep.
And it's not democratic. No.
Do you think the purpose of the electoral college is to be democratic or representative in any way?
No.
Okay. So when you're making an argument for getting rid of the electoral college, you understand that the process of the electoral college is to put a buffer between the average citizen and the processes of government.
That's not at all what it does, though.
That was the functionality of what it does. It literally, like,
Okay,
popular
but
vote
that's
does
not
not
what
matter.
it does now.
Well, I mean,
Popular
Sen-
vote does matter. It just matters more in certain states. Small
not-
states.
Electoral college doesn't go off a popular vote, and popular vote
It
does.
does.
It doesn't.
It does. The popular vote of the states. That's how electoral votes are allocated.
No. The states themselves are allowed to allocate board of slave electors how they deem fit.
States
Most
don't
state-
have no state has completely free electors, right? Like I think that almost every state has bound electors, and the states that don't just go off the popular vote anyway, right? Again, I think it's a burden for you to prove why me as a Texan, why I should have 4 times less voting power than someone from Vermont. That doesn't make sense to me.
Oh, the issue being is that one, all states have a mandatory minimal representation
Yeah.
in the electoral college, right?
Small states are the ones that proportionally get more say in the electoral votes. The smaller your state, the more proportional say that you get. Why should someone in Rhode Island get more of a vote for president than someone in Florida?
And that's okay. So the issue being
That's
is that
exactly how it works. You have to defend that
hold
because
on.
that's what the electoral college
Hold on.
does.
Hold on. The electoral college, and the reason how this is the same principle why the Senate is above the House and not any other way. The more priority of how the Constitution and the founding fathers set up was a priority that states themselves had a more of a justificational say in how the federal government was ran and how decisions are made, and so much so that we were coming into democracy and how I don't say confederation, but how states interact with each other are now butting heads, and we're seeing where democracy is now coming at odds with the representation of the states.
Okay, so why haven't you answered my question though?
What?
Why is it that someone in Vermont, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, or New Jersey, why should they have more of a say in who becomes president than someone from Florida or Texas?
It's not that it's not that
They absolutely do.
Hold on. It's not. Yes, they do, but it is the aspect of the system itself, and that there are going to be inequalities when it comes to states and how representation is decided, based off of the framework of how the United States prioritizes the rights of states over individual democracy or representative democracies. It's just how the system has ended up. It's not about whether or not they should. It's just that's how the system ends up.
Right, but you're not making a descriptive argument. You're saying, well, as far as I'm aware, you're saying I like the electoral college, right?
No,
What I'm saying is,
I'm not saying I
okay,
like it. I'm saying that's how it functions, and this is
obviously I don't think anything that I've said demonstrates a lack of understanding of how the electoral college functions.
You're saying is that we should have a more representative electoral system for how to elect the president.
That's my prescription. Yeah, I don't like the electoral college, but descriptively, I don't think I've said anything that would lead someone to believe I don't understand how it works.
So the process is that we have, like, for example, the Senate. I'm going to shift to the Senate real quick just to give an example. The Senate The Senate is not designed to be representative. It is designed to put the rights of the states above the rights of the citizens.
Though. It's designed to represent states' interests, right? So it's meant to be representative just for a different interest group than like broad popular opinion.
the Electoral College functions the same way as the Senate does, as the people in power, because it's oftentimes a winner takes all, except for like a couple of
Right.
states. The Electoral College does the same thing with the slate of electors elected by the governor in power. Usually, I think it's the legislation and then approved by the governor or whatever, and
Right.
those in power.
So
So
what are you defending? Again, you keep making descriptive statements.
well, that's
I
the
mean,
thing is that the Electoral College in and of itself is useful because it is representative of the states and not like individual how do you say democratic voting. So if we
individual
get rid
voters,
of
yeah.
yeah, so
It's
if we
not.
get rid if we get rid of the Electoral College, we'll have an overabundance of coastal areas voting and deciding government.
This is
And
such a
there's
weird, like, conservative, like, not
it's
dog
not
whistle, but it's like this conspiracy, like, oh, the coastal elites are going to take over our elections. Like, that's not
no
true, right? Again,
coastal populations are going to be the largest just because they're trade hubs.
okay, that's well, I think I disagree with that to some extent. The point is just to say that when we talk about, who should be voting or who should decide who becomes the president, that's all that we're talking about here. If we had a popularly elected president, guess what? Anything that president would ever be able to do, based on statutes that are available to them that give them their power, or based on legislation they would have to propose, guess where it would have to go through? The Senate, okay? Which is equally representative of every state. So there's literally nothing that a president can do based on current statutes or based on future statutes the president might advocate for that does not have an equitable say amongst states.
Okay,
Right.
so
So
here's
the
my
idea that we need like double layers of inequality in terms of how we vote in this country isn't true. We have a Senate. We don't need. We also have devolved government. We have state government. We don't need the president who has a monopoly on foreign policy to be representative of only small state interests, which is what we have presently.
Well, we don't. Here's the issue.
We do.
The
That's
same
how the
people-
Electoral College
hold on,
works. That's what you're
hold on,
defending.
Hold on. Now, people are making the same argument for abolishing the Senate. So we don't want to just say, oh, we need to get rid of the Electoral College. That's where it's going to end, even though that is your statement. But these two checks on power are both being advocated to be removed because they're not representative. They're not, and that the House should be what is deciding policy. Whereas the Senate is designed to slow change in the federal government, in the overarching country. These things are checks on those
No, it isn't.
rapid mob rule.
That's not. That statement that the Senate's meant to be this colander that slows down the fiery passions of the popular vote isn't true. It's actually
That's how it's
ahistorical. Founding
When?
fathers haven't founding fathers didn't take the view that the Senate should be the area where popular will goes to die. Quite the opposite.
Oh, well,
The only
founding
point
fathers
is just
didn't even
say-
decide that the
Now-
average person should be able to vote. That was only wealthy white landowners.
Yeah, I agree. So perhaps our government shouldn't be structured in the exact way that our founding fathers should agree. You're the one making a historical argument of the purpose of the Senate, not me, right? I'm just saying that when it comes to the Electoral College, I don't think that's an optimal way to structure our government. You say that, okay, well, I guess getting rid of the Electoral College is like a slippery slope to getting rid of the Senate. I'm not really sure how. I don't really see a broad movement. No, hold on. I don't really see a broad movement of getting rid of the Senate as I do the Electoral College, because again, the Electoral College being, the way that it is has led to, in my view, at least some fairly disastrous outcomes. But it's not about what the outcome of the system is necessarily. It's more just about the representativeness of the system. The Electoral College is not very representative. Again, you've refused presently to defend the idea that someone from Vermont should get 4 times the voting power as someone from Texas. Someone living in Burlington, Vermont, the biggest city in Vermont, has 4 times the say in who becomes president than a rural voter in Texas. Why is that fair?
I would just say that it doesn't really matter whether or not it's actually fair to the individual voter as it is opposed to is it fair to the state itself, because the states are what joined the Constitution, not the individual people. You're focusing on these democratically individual voting equality, where I am looking at the whole republic of states, and that's what I value over individual voting.
Yeah, but then argue for a confederacy. Don't argue for
confederacies without any federal oversight, which is why the Articles of Confederation were worthless.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is what we have to we have to recognize that again, literally anything the president does is given consent by the Senate, which is a disproportionately allocated by population system. The one thing that I could hear an argument on is foreign policy, but then you'd have to justify the idea of why would it be the case that small states should have disproportionate say in how we determine our foreign policy, but literally nothing else. It's incoherent. It doesn't make sense. If you want small states to be represented, we have a Senate. We have devolved government in this country. We have a federal system.
The Senate is only one process, whereas the House is almost overwhelmingly dictated by California, New York, and Texas, and I think that's
the larger states have more members of the House.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yes, and then the minor one is the Electoral College, and the Senate is what is not given, but is what works in the benefit of the smaller states. I look at it
the
as
Senate
equal.
also the Senate also has way more power than the House in a number of ways.
Yes, but that again, that the goal of the founding fathers and how they came up with it is that the states had to, equally come to terms with it, not just overwhelming by.
Do we care about what the founding fathers said or not? Because earlier you said they didn't think everyone should have the right to vote. So do we care about what they had to say or not?
Well, so there's two things. I agree with the principles that make sense from the founding fathers, and then the whole 3/5 compromise obviously doesn't make sense for.
You're basically just saying I agree with what I agree with, right? Okay,
No,
well then what the founding fathers say doesn't really matter. Then it's just whatever you think is right, which is fair. That's how I think of it.
Well,
right?
no,
But
so
there's no need to.
we chip away at things that don't make sense for modern times, and we get rid of and then add things in. But
And the Electoral College is one of those things, in my view.
Well, in my view, the Electoral College still makes sense. So this is the argument saying that the Electoral College still serves a purpose, is what I'm saying.
But why not? Why not? If you think that, why not just have the Senate elect the president? Why do we need the Electoral College?
Because the Senate is, how do I say this? There's just too much of the voting power consolidated into two people is not worth it. Whereas the Electoral College is based off of population size, to some extent. To some extent,
so
not like
I
there's
just
a
don't.
minimal.
I just don't. This is incredibly arbitrary, right? So I mean, look, you can't have it both ways. I'm arguing for a pure popular vote system. You're saying I have a principle that the states should have this influence in who becomes president. Then the most consistent position would be to just have each state get one vote, or to have the senators elect the president, or whatever it is. But to say that, I care about having some like quasi proportional say in who becomes president, I'm not sure that really makes much sense or is very consistent.
Because the issue is that going to a purely populational democratic vote federally does not make sense for the United States, and you're just going to get the rule of the mob.
What? Well, yeah, but you're arguing for the rule of the minority mob. There's
a check.
You
there's
are.
A check on this. No,
you're saying I don't want majority rules. I want minority rules sometimes. Which but there's no reason why necessarily one would be better or worse.
No, there's a minority protections to some extent. There's not an overwhelming. Oh no, the Vermont is dictating what is who is elected. It's not. This, like you said before, the swing states are determining.
It is
who's
though.
Okay, dude, we're definitely running out of time.
Okay. Well,
all right.
I'm gonna move forward.
Electoral college, dumb and gay.
Okay, so Econoboi wants a Norwegian-style economy. The issue being is that Norway's GDP is 28% oil that it has nationalized. There's nothing equivalent in the United States that's going to actually.
Oh yeah, we don't have a lot of oil in the United States. Wow.
It only U.S. only
good fucking point, guy.
Hold on.
The U.S. doesn't have oil wealth.
Stop. So U.S. oil only accounts for 8% of our GDP, so there's no equivalent to that. You're asking for 42% of states. Yeah, well, that is a huge fucking problem. If you're going to say,
you're right. Yeah. No, that's a great
talking
point.
about, also, United States is 66 times larger than Norway. So that you're talking about having a Norwegian style economy.
Hold on. I need to jump in because Econoboi, didn't you have to leave like 15 minutes ago?
No, I think I said 30 minutes at about 3:30, didn't I?
Oh, I think you said it at 3:00.
No.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Maybe
that's
I
last time.
All right. But here, listen. You've been going for like over 15 minutes now.
I did.
I think.
I'm sorry.
Yes. No,
Okay,
I understand.
well,
I mean, you guys get
I'll
into a
wrap up.
spirited thing. You guys get into a spirited thing. I understand.
I'll just say two
Yeah.
more.
Also, I just want to I want to fact check you here. 20% of the Norwegian economy is not based on oil. The oil rents as a percent of their GDP is 4.3%.
I just looked it up in their government website. It's right here, Norwegian Petroleum.
Where
Norse
is it?
Petroleum.
Here, hold on. Post it in the $5 club. I'll bring it up right now. I'll take a look.
Yeah. Hold on.
There we go. I guess we'll have to look it up, figure it out.
That's $5 club. Where is it? Why are all these pictures of rats? All right.
What?
In the $5 club, everyone's posting rats because I kicked out
where
Rat
the
Boy.
fuck is $5 club?
Well, it's called the
Rats. We are the rats.
someone renamed it to the Dev Dollar Club. It's right above the presentations. Just
okay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Just
I'm just gonna fucking DM it to you.
The point, the point that I'm trying to make is just that when it comes to like comparing the Norway system of government to the United States, like fundamentally we have to ask like what are the institutions that Norway has that the U.S. just couldn't do, right? So when we talk about the oil wealth, right? So Norway funnels its oil wealth into a sovereign wealth fund. Well, the U.S. already has like thousands of sovereign wealth funds in the United States, insofar as the sovereign wealth fund is literally just a state-managed investment fund. We have thousands of those in the country. We could do them. Alaska has one, right? We could do one for oil. We could do one for natural gas. We could do one for any of the number of, we're one of the most resource wealth rich countries in the world. There's literally no reason to imagine why we couldn't have a sovereign wealth fund in this country. And that's not to mention all the other Nordic countries that don't have high oil money, oil wealth. They have very similar institutions, which is just to say that they tax and distribute equitably, and they offer a lot of government services. So
that only counts for the fact that their population sizes are like 5 million, and that
but all of these programs are economies of scale. It should be easier to implement these programs in America, not harder.
It's actually not. It's actually much easier to do them smaller than it is larger.
You don't think healthcare is an economy of scale?
Oh, it is massively an economy of scale.
Okay.
But the only issue
well,
is
then
that the United
it would
States
be easier for the
hold on.
United States to do it than Norway then.
Well, no, it's not, because the United States has the fattest population in the United States and the most not in the United States, but in the world, and the most unhealthiest with multiple morbidities.
Right,
per
but
person.
that's just making. But okay, now you're switching your argument. It's not that these countries are small; it's that Americans are fatter. That's a different
there are
argument.
multiple compounding issues with the fact of why the United States being a
it looks interestingly in all
big. They're
that's true.
tall,
Don't tell
all the
Arch.
developed countries, across every single developed country in the world, they've seemed to have figured out, despite all the different problems that all these different countries have, they seem to have all figured out universal healthcare. I think America is not quite as stupid and inept as you might say. I think that America has figured out universal healthcare as well.
I think I disagree. But I would say that all these these Nordic countries, the European countries. The other guy that came on was explaining to you why the United States subsidizing military expenditure. If we would stop doing that, I would 100% agree, because all the military expenditures we waste on other countries would be able to provide for the Medicare for all if we really wanted to do that.
No, it wouldn't. That's not true. Like we could end all military spending in our country, and we wouldn't be able to afford Medicare for all. It would require a lot of structural change, right?
I want to point out to you that we spent $40 billion a year
You
in
need
Afghanistan.
structural change for healthcare.
We could not have a military budget, and that wouldn't be enough money to pay for Medicare for all. Okay?
I would say yes to that. I would say that
Right.
if we want to do it, like, it's not going to replace. It would be adding to it, wouldn't it?
Right.
Because we already
So
have
the
a
fact that
budget.
we subsidize these countries' military budgets doesn't really significantly play into the fact that they can afford these different programs.
It
doesn't.
Because
You can look at the numbers.
Hold on. Now their budgets are going deficit spending massively. Germany's GDP expenditures have increased by 3% over the last year.
Germany has been one of the most fiscally prudent countries in like all of the modern history of its conception as a nation, right? And so I don't think that it's fair to say that they're temporarily going into deficit. They're temporarily deficit spending, especially during COVID. So therefore, that's a reason why they couldn't afford this. If you look at the percentage of military aid, if you look at military aid as a percentage of GDP in these countries, we're talking about these countries having to put up like an extra 0.25% of GDP. They already spend like Norway, for instance, a majority of their economy is government spending. Like as a percentage of GDP, a majority of their GDP is originated or distributed by the government. So the idea that it's going to go, well, one last sentence. Norway, if they went from 51% of government spending as a percentage of GDP to 51.5%, that's when Norway would collapse. That doesn't make any sense. People that make this criticism.
We have to stop. We have to stop.
Yes, I was about to say.
We have to stop. Yes, this is the end.
Okay, Dev, the GDP numbers.
What numbers? What?
The GDP thing I sent you.
Yeah, Norway? I couldn't find 20% in there.
There's 28%. Literally, it's right 20, there if you scroll down.
20. Okay, hold on. Here. All right. Well, I sent it to Econoboi too, so if you want to take a look at it.
Yeah, I'll have to look at it. I don't know.
Okay. Here, I'm gonna do a Control F. Control F. 28. What do we find? Hold on. The expected net government cash flow from petroleum activities in 2021. This isn't 28%.
Oh, what the fuck are you looking at? It's literally macroeconomic indicators for petroleum sector 2022. It's right below that. What the fuck are you looking at?
Hold on. Wait, here. Macroeconomic indicators for the petroleum sector 1970 to 2022. Okay. So, where's 28%? Sure. Oh, it's the green line. Share of GDP. Okay.
Yeah, what the fuck? Yeah, okay. It's 28% of the fucking GDP of their goddamn nation.
Let's see. Macroeconomic indicators for the petroleum sector, 1971 to 2022. This is from Statistics Norway, Ministry of Finance. In 2022, it does say 28% share of GDP, 17% share of their investments, 58% share of their exports, and 42% share of state revenues. It's that.
Like I said, it's a massive part of the GDP. Like if we nationalized a fucking 28% of our GDP, sure, we could have all these fucking stuff that he's wanting, but there's nothing.
I mean, hey, well, listen here. I mean, if you're saying, hey, we can have, equitably funded education, universal health care, all these great things, if only we did a few extra state industries, it sounds like it's worth it to do those extra state industries. I'm not sure why we wouldn't want that.
That's not a social democracy at that point. That is nationalizing. That is socialism, sir.
Oh, it's almost like you don't know at all the history of social democracy. Dev might be able to back me up on this. The whole history of fucking social democracy includes state industry and nationalization. Sometimes capitalist countries have national industry. Look at Chile. Look at America with the USPS. Look at Canada with their healthcare system. And yes, look at Norway with their oil wealth. Of course, you can have national industry and still be a fundamentally capitalist economy with private enterprise and investor protections.
To be fair, Canada's healthcare system, there's a lot of private owners. They just get reimbursed by the government.
Yeah.
But still,
the national insurance, insurance scheme in Canada is a state industry, national industry.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I'm just going to point out, because I need to get off, because I'm taking up time for everybody else, is that it's not going to work for the United States. No one's going to go for that.
Yeah, no great reason why it wouldn't work, of course.
No. If the United States was open to that idea, which is not, I would say, yeah, should go for it. But
okay, so if it's just an attitudinal barrier, it sounds like I should still advocate for it and eventually change enough people's minds then. Oh, it could work if only people wanted it. Well, it sounds like we just need to keep advocating for it then.
I mean, you can go for that, sure. I'm
glad that we now agree. Dev. I'm glad we now agree. Actually, it could work in the United States. It just requires the voters for it in order to vote it in and get it to work.
Dev, we could remove the furry population if we could just get everybody to agree with with the sentiment.
I mean, based, yes.
Look,
but
hey,
I'm just saying is that the real world.
Artemis, I'm glad that now we've agreed that the only thing preventing the U.S. from having a great welfare state is the fact that people don't want it currently. I agree. Let's convince all those people so that we have this great system.
The explanation is
that the only things are good.
Yeah, the only issue, the actual issue is that the real world is coming up against your idea here.
Well, no, I don't believe it. So here. We have to stop this because we are running. We are wrapping.
Move on. Kick him out.
Well,
I will kick myself out. How about
deport him to Norway?
Okay, fine. All right, deport him to Norway. There he goes. Okay. Yeah. So I'm sorry, guys. This has to be the end. Hold on. I've written down the names of everyone who has already been in the call today. So Econoboi, assuming that you want to for some reason do this again, I will prioritize people who haven't been on the call. So we can do it again in the near future. All of you who have been waiting in the chat, you will get your time to shine. And all the ones who have already had a shot, they'll go back down to the bottom of the queue. Sound good?
I mean, that's fine with me. If people want me to do this again, I'm I'm open to it. I had a lot of fun today. Artemis is wrong, and he should go. He should be forced to work in a Norwegian oil company
Was
for
there
10
any
years
of,
as
of the
punishment.
guests that you liked?
I liked everyone.
We're still on the air. God damn it!
Look, I'm not. I think I feel like a lot of people feel like, oh, I hate you if you disagree with me politically. No. I mean, I disagree with Dev on a lot of stuff, but I like Dev, and Lily's a filthy libertarian, and those guys are the worst. But Lily's pretty cool, so
Well, here's the thing. Like, I've had people who have disagreed with me for political reasons, and we've been friends, and I can do that. But then I've had people who have hated me because of that disagreement, and it's like, well, I mean, if you want to hate me, you can, but you just seem kind of ridiculous,
Yeah, you hate us because you ain't us. That's how it is.
And yeah, so for the purpose of the chat, real quick, some social democrats have basically actually advocated for actual socialism, and they've used social democracy as a stepping stone. Econoboi, I've watched enough of your stuff that I don't think you're that kind of subversive, filthy commie in the end.
So social democracy originally was electoralist socialists, right? And so the spectrum from electoralist socialist to basically welfare capitalism, either one of those includes certainly a wide ability to have state enterprise and national projects.
Yes.
And so Artemis, who makes the claim that, oh, social democracy, if it includes nationalization, means it's not social democracy. I mean, it's ahistorical. I mean, every social democratic project includes some level of state industry and investment. So,
and also, in my opinion, what the more interesting conversation is it good to nationalize this industry? Because sometimes the answer to that is yes, and sometimes the answer to that is no. So it really depends what we're talking about,
Exactly. Got to nationalize the femboy industry, and distribute it equally amongst the rest of us.
Because, like, actually, I think I went into this in detail in that video on fascism that I did a couple days ago, where everyone wants to just group together certain policies and then call that a label, and then bludgeon people with the label. But what's more important is, are the policies any good? Because you're going to have a lot of socialists who will agree with nationalization, but then does that make them Japanese fascists? Because the Japanese fascists, they nationalized everything. They nationalized more than the Soviet Union did. So, like, there's...
Well, I think the difference between a fascist
we have
and
to
a
remember that Hitler drank water.
Yeah,
sure. I think the difference between a fascist and a maybe a contemporary nationalization would be whether or not you compensate the people, right, for it. For instance, Germany just quote unquote nationalized their gas, one of their largest gas companies, but they basically just, because it was a publicly traded company, basically the government just bought all the shares for the company and then delisted it. So they compensated all the shareholders from that company, properly, right? But if you're just expropriating industry, right, this is where you this is where you get into, the more fascist or like, almost more like maybe revolutionary socialist version of nationalization, which doesn't, in my view, doesn't work very well.
Yeah, I think it's more important to talk about whether or not policies are good ideas, as opposed to say whether or not they're part of some kind of ideology. Because I can definitely see instances where nationalization is the better course, and some instances where it's not. I think some things it probably is better to leave them to private owners to do their own thing. I wouldn't want my small business here being nationalized by the Canadian government. I don't want to have to spout Trudeau's nonsense on my YouTube channel. You know what I mean?
Hey, you might like that if he offers you a boatload of money. Hey, you want to give me $10 million for my YouTube channel? Sure, why not? I'll take it, Trudeau.
God.
Anyway.
Here, let's check out the super chats.
It's good talking.
I think there's some.
Okay.
There's some super chats that I got sent. Let me see if I can find them here. Where the fuck? Oh my god. There's one asshole. Actually, no, he's not an asshole. He's a nice guy because he super chatted me. But like a week ago, he super chatted me a really long string of text, and it's broken my super chat window till it rolls off. Oh my god. Okay, hold on. I gotta see this. But yes, guys, everyone who will do this again in the future, everyone who missed, come back. I'll bump you to the front of the line. Those of you who have already had time on with Econoboi, you're going to the bottom. You're going to the back of the bus. That's how it is.
You're all bottoms
Hope you've
now.
asked your questions wisely.
Yep. Okay, so Brett Werdersheim. This is actually not for Econoboi. Actually, here, hold on. Yeah, no, there's only like 2 that aren't for Econoboi, so I'll do these. So, been delivering those Amazon boxes for about 2 to 3 months before Rings of Power came out. That's right, because the Lilith, we were talking about the Amazon boxes a couple nights ago on our show with Taftadge and Arch and Kibbs. Quillfell Puzzle for $5. I don't mind Econoboi since there's worse things, like Joe Casabian's lack of nuance. Who's that?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But thank you, though. 200 Kronor from Myodrag. Have some Swedish fun bucks. I hope you're all doing well. Thank you. Ace 1918. Hey, Dev, YouTube has decided to keep my channel demonetized, and now I've caught them red-handed, openly lying about why. I sent you a video with proof. Thank you. Ace is a viewer of mine who's had some monetization troubles recently. But thank you.
Oh, no.
Thank you.
Internet Guy, $2. This is even more of a train wreck than predicted. Bravo. All right.
True.
Internet Guy, $2. Could Futa replace the gold standard?
Absolutely. Food is in very high demand.
True enough. Wait, does Econoboi, is he degenerate enough to know what a Futa is?
I don't know what that is. No.
A Japanese girl with a dick.
So just like a trans Japanese lady?
No, because she also has a vagina too.
Oh, I
It's
see.
like,
This
it's
is
like
like
a
an animated
genre
thing.
of like Japanese porn /
I
hentai,
see.
where it's just-
Yeah, Japanese porn where they have both genitals.
I see.
It
Well, I mean,
depends.
I learned something new today.
Some have both sets. Some have just the dick and balls. Some
Some
have
have
just
some have like
balls.
some have a dick and no balls and a vagina instead. They have like there's like there's a spectrum here, okay?
Well, now I know.
The real Holtzner for
knowing's half the
$5.
power.
You could have been born Hans.
Half the battle.
That's true. You could have been born Hans. Econoboi. I am wrong
Well,
for
yeah,
€5.
that's true. Yeah.
Do you guys know how many people died under capitalism versus communism? People keep having those arguments. Like every non-Soviet imperialist action was like a death under a capital. It's fucking stupid. I hate those arguments. Internet guy for $2. I hope Mao sees this, bro. That's back when you were advocating for Maoism. Econoboi the Maoist.
True. Econo-Maoism, anarchism, Bidenism.
Harry the Human Substitute
Dark
for
Brandonism.
£2. Aaron did nothing wrong.
Who's Eric?
Aaron Yeager.
Who asked?
Oh, Aaron. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that was to you, Lilith, since you're a
very-
you're a filthy fucking Jaegerist in the end.
That's right. Very based. Aaron Aaron did everything wrong. He didn't finish the job.
Harry again for £10. Thank you. I like tomboys like my girlfriend because then you can be so super alpha. You can bring them back around to feeling like your woman with the whole yes sir attitude. Oh, geez, dude. I don't know what to say that, but thank you for the £10.
Very,
10
very
pounds.
honest.
£20 from the same guy. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you.
Let's see. If you cannot be Chad enough that tomboys get submissive and look to you for protection, then you stay an incel. The losers can't have girls or anything in college. Oh, Jesus. That's no good.
So true. You gotta take initiative.
You gotta take initiative? And $10 just came in from Quifflow Puzzle. Again, thank you. Joe is a former vet and now a so-so sci-fi writer and kinda a political podcaster that has made some dumb takes, and most of his jokes fall flat from lack of charisma and sometimes timing. Oh. I still don't know who that is, man. I'm very sorry.
God, your audience is like, they're having fucking delusions or something. Like, to the person that just donated that, what is that in reference to?
That is in reference to their other... he said much earlier, like 2 hours ago, I don't mind Econoboi since there's worse things like Joe Casabian's lack of nuance.
Oh, okay. I was like, fuck, that's so confusing without any context behind it. My goodness.
Yeah. And I guess to finish it off quickly, yeah, so Econoboi, the Sockdem. Here's the thing. I know Destiny recently said he stopped calling himself a Sockdem because a lot of Sockdems were like historically advocating for electoral socialism, and he doesn't want that. He's a capitalist in the end.
Suckdem.
Suckdem. So Destiny. I
It seems like Destiny is like just against labels in general. I mean, to me, in a contemporary context, of course, I think that SOCDEM is a pretty appropriate thing to label me. I mean, people argue like, oh, like SOCDEM, social liberal. Like, okay, dude. I mean, if we're really splitting that many hairs, it's probably not that big a
Yeah.
deal. But like, you know, people ask me like the one guy did like, oh, how would you describe your political views? Like, you know, I'm an American Democrat. It's pretty reasonable. So
fair enough. I mean, here's the thing: like you're not actually interested in any like of the actual, you know, the workers own the means of production, and then you have a dictatorship of the proletariat. You're not that kind of socialist at the very least. So, which is the main reason why I find you reasonable, is because capitalism is still based in the end, in my opinion.
The system we have is not the best one. I mean, it's not the perfect one, but hey.
No, it's perfect. Listen, if I can't run a Mad Men style company where I have like hot, big boobed secretaries walking around, then what's the point?
That's true. Might as well just end yourself in a video game.
Yeah.
But even in a capitalist society, there exists anti-harassment policies.
No, there shouldn't be. As long as I pay him, it should be okay. It's not harassment if you pay him. It's not harassment if you pay them.
Clips that'll get taken if you ever go to court.
Definitely still harassment if you pay them.
Well, not if you pay them to harass them. It's like, here, listen, I'll give you $100,000 if you let me beat you up for 15 minutes. And it's like, well, why not? It's still a job. Sex work is real work.
As long as
sex work is real work.
Look, as long as it's explicitly like agreed upon by two consenting adults, then yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, listen. Are you two like on the way out the door now? Because I actually wanted to ask you one thing myself, Econoboi. I had a question for you.
You can ask me a question. Sure, Dev, go for it.
All right. So, I did a video on forgiving student loans, and I watched some of your stuff on forgiving student loans. And I think we have a slight disagreement, and I want to discuss it.
I don't think I watched your student loan video, but yeah.
That's fine. I can tell you the TLDR. The TLDR is that it seems to be like an okay idea, but this was probably the wrong time for Biden to do it. And because you already have the inflation crisis going on, and you're going to take, people who have student loans are people who have gone to school to get degrees. Getting a degree is one of the largest markers that you're going to earn more money over the course of your life than someone who doesn't have a degree. So you're taking from your middle and potentially upper class, you're giving these guys loan relief, and that's going to be paid for generally by the lower class through inflation. So it just seems to be the case that while you already have an inflation problem, forgiving student loans right now seems to be a wealth transfer from the lower class to the middle class, and that doesn't seem like a good idea to me.
No, not at all. I mean, like, because again, right, these aren't like presently rich people that are getting the loans, right? I think a lot of people have made that argument of like, these people have higher earnings potential, but we don't. I mean, I don't think welfare policy should be dictated by who has highest earning potential, right? So I've used the example before of like, if we imagine a student who's like homeless but in medical school, well, I don't think the state should look at that person and say like, oh, well, you're in medical school, dude. Like in 10 years, you'll be making a lot of money as a doctor. Like, no, that person needs help now. And so I just don't think that mindset makes a lot of sense. You could argue, certainly, I think you could very sophisticatedly argue that, $125,000 is too high an income cap. It should be 80,000, or it should be 70,000, or it should be 50,000, or whatever it is. Like, sure, that argument I think to me makes a lot more sense if you wanted to make it. The timing, sure. I mean, I can go either way on the timing. I mean, I think it would have made more sense like maybe a year ago, but Biden was dragging his feet on it, arguably for political purposes. Like he wanted to stack up wins before the midterm. So politically, maybe it makes sense. Inflationarily, no, I don't think. There's actually an argument that this would be deflationary because it's coming with a payment pause being ended, right? So if we think about the cash, if we think about inflation, right? So all the inflationary benefits or the inflationary sort of the causes of forgiving student loans have already internalized in the market already because nobody's paid any student loans for the last 2 years. Now, some people might argue, it'll reset expectations. So now that it's actually forgiven, it's not just a balance that's paused, but now it's a balance that's zero. That might change expectations. People might go out and they might go spend more money because of it. But at the same time, we've got millions of borrowers that are now going to have to start paying back their student loans after the payment pause ends in January for those that don't have their full balances forgiven. So there's just as much an argument that it's inflationary as deflationary. To the argument of, well, tax wise, right? Well, tax wise, you're distributing income to these high potential earners. Like, oh well, not really, not from low potential earners, right? So, the deficits associated with any student loan forgiveness are going to come out of income tax receipts, right? And the bottom 50% of people basically don't pay any income tax, right? I think it's like 3% of people in the bottom 50%, which of course is like from the 45th to 50th percentile, are paying the 3% of income taxes. Let's safely say the bottom 40% of people don't pay any income taxes. The lowest income earners just are not contributing to the deficit associated with the student loan forgiveness. Of course, it's mostly high income people that are paying those taxes back anyway. So I think I reject each step of that argument. My big argument for student loan forgiveness is just that it helps a lot of people who benefit highly from it, and I think it's a decent enough utility of money. Is it the most efficient economic possible way to spend $350 billion? No, the answer is no. But Biden didn't have just a pot of $350 billion that he could spend doing whatever he wanted. He had a sort of segregated amount of money that he could do for one purpose, and he chose to do it for that one purpose, which I think is a fine move. It seems like decent economics. It's like okay economics, let's say. Give it a C. And then in terms of politics, it seems like a B+ or an A in terms of the political spectrum.
Well, let me just turn on my MMT brain for a second, okay? Because from what I understand is that you have your money supply, then you have your production supply, and then when you print a bunch of money to pay for whatever you're doing, what you're doing is you're devaluing each individual dollar. So the government prints a bunch of money and then uses it to pay these student loans, but then because that's what the student loan is. But then they expect that money back.
They don't though. They don't.
Well, hold on. So
no money is printed in order to give someone a student loan.
No, where's it coming from?
If it comes from deficit spending at all, it's coming from bonds, and when you issue a bond, you don't create new currency.
Okay, all right. Well, what do you mean though?
So if a government wants to basically fund something with deficit spending, right? So if we don't have the tax receipts to fund what we want, and let's say that student loans are an example of something we want to fund, but we can't because of a lack of tax receipts, well, we're going to issue a deficit. That deficit is bonds, right? We use bonds to finance deficits. And so when it comes to issuing a bond, it's a debt instrument. So I'm going to go out to the market and say, hey, I need $100 billion because we want to expand this student loan offering to people. Investors will pay the government $100 billion from money that was already out there, already created. And then the government now has $100 billion and they have an obligation to pay back that $100 billion with interest later. Again, with more deficit spending. There's no money that's actually being created when the government uses bonds to run a deficit.
Well, hold on though, because when they pay that back later, they still have to pay back more than they took in. So, I mean, they're just kicking the can down the road, aren't they?
Well, in theory they could, right? But they just will end up issuing more bonds, right? So the money creation is always neutral from a bond perspective. I mean, the way that the government creates money today, if we're talking about like actually created currency, it's ordered creation from the Federal Reserve, right? When you look at money, if you look at a $20 bill or a $1 bill, it says Federal Reserve note because it's the Federal Reserve that has the authority to actually order the creation of currency, whether it be crediting reserve accounts from banks or doing quantitative easing, actually creating money. But none of that's affected the student loan market. Right?
Subsidize me, true daddy.
Lane, you fucking asshole.
The student loan market though is funded with bonds, right? And so no money is created in that regard.
I see. I think I get it. I have to think about it a bit more. That guy the last guy that you debated just donated $30 to say a bunch more debate things. Do you want me to read them to you? Since
Artemis
they're too you.
I see his incredibly stupid chat in the comments. Artemis, nice
hold
try
on,
yet
hold on.
again. So
they're at least $30 smart.
True. I'll respond to your point. So the Federal Reserve doesn't operate the way Econoboi thinks. Good one. No real examples. They don't issue bonds anymore. They just make the account balances. It makes go up. That's actually not true. If you think that the government doesn't issue bonds, you're incredibly misinformed. The government still finances itself with bonds. You might argue that the Federal Reserve monetizes a percentage of those bonds. That's true, but those are already outstanding bonds, right? At the end of the day, when the government wants to finance deficits, right, they go out to the open market and they issue those bonds. It's literally an auction right? The Federal Reserve doesn't participate in treasury auctions. They participate in the secondary market for bonds that have already issued. So at the end of the day, to issue a bond, you still need like real organic investor demand, right? So, you know, I think that, again, Artemis, swing and a miss. You're completely wrong about what you just said. And actually, you know, the ironic part is it would only take a quick Google to prove otherwise.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, see, so
You, Artemis, go back to Norway.
my whole vision of the thing is that if the government printed money to pay for a program, and that program benefited the middle class, well, the wealth that is, sorry, the value that's being siphoned out of everyone else's bank accounts that has money, well, it comes out of the rich, but they don't care because they have billions of dollars, and it comes out of the poor, and the poor they would care quite a bit if you know suddenly their food bill is twice as high. So it just seems like printing money to fund a program on its own is probably just a bad idea.
Well, but again, we're not printing money here, right? So
You're selling bonds.
no
Yeah,
money
okay.
being
No, I
printed.
understand. Yeah,
right. We're selling bonds, right?
It just seems
and
like
again, I think in this case though, it's just the failure to collect outstanding debt already that exists, right?
Okay,
And so
yeah.
I do get that. I'm just
Mhm.
I'm just saying that I don't the fairness argument and the argument that it's putting a tax burden on lower income people is you know it's just not true. Again, it's paid for with income taxes if it's paid for, and the poorest people don't pay income tax.
Yeah, no, fair enough. It's just, but they do lose value if inflation wipes out their savings, though, and that's
Student loans, if student loan forgiveness had a significant impact on inflation, I would agree. But the problem is that there's the most generous analysis that I've seen is that student loan forgiveness would create 0.2% extra inflation. Now, that's an extra inflation in the sense that almost anytime the government does any deficit spending or money creation, it creates some extra inflation. But now we get into like the utilitarian calculus. But that's assuming that 0.2% is actually an accurate number. Again, from what I've said, the way that Biden structured the forgiveness, there's actually just as much of a reason to think that to think that it could be deflationary. Oh, and I see Artemis say another dumb thing in chat.
He says no one's
you'd be
buying
right if
bonds.
anyone, yeah, you'd be right if anyone's buying bonds. What is actually happening is that the interest on the bonds is so low that no one's buying bonds. No, great fucking point, Artemis. No one's buying U.S. bonds. You're right. Because, you know, as I look out the window, the military's marching in the fucking street and anarchy's taking over us. Because that's what would happen if no one was buying U.S. bonds. The economy would be
Oh my God.
completely fucking collapsed. You
Okay, hold on.
fucking Artemis, you bitch.
So
Anyway, sorry,
I know you have to go, Econoboi, and Lilith, you also have to go. I know that you're on the edge of your rope here. Yep. I'm sorry for taking this so long. No, it's just I just wanted to understand a bit more about the student loan inflation situation. Yeah, I guess that kind of I guess the here I'll hit you with one final question. Intuitively, it feels like every time the government puts out a bond to get the money to pay for this stuff, they say we'll pay you back with more later. It's like, okay, fair enough. But then like they get the money to pay that back by issuing another bond. And then they get the money to pay that one back by issuing more bonds. It seems like eventually like this will just spiral out of control. Just intuitively. Like eventually it has to be paid off, right? Like what, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, there is net money creation in our society. It just
Mhm.
doesn't come from bonds, right? It comes from banks and it comes from the Federal Reserve, right? And so it's just that we're not like, it's not like, oh well, now that the government's issued, you know, potentially in terms of opportunity cost, an extra $300 billion worth of bonds. Now like the Federal Reserve has to print $300 billion to buy more bonds because investors aren't buying bonds. That's just not how it's working currently. And again, I mean, we can have a thoughtful conversation about the inflationary impacts of student loan forgiveness. Certainly, I think that it's probably the case that it's marginally net positive in terms of like increasing or like upward pressure on prices. Apologies, but you know, in conjunction with lower deficit spending overall, you know, higher interest rates on overnight loans between the banks. I mean, I don't think that there's a lot of reason to think that this student loan forgiveness will like significantly impact inflation. And besides, again, I mean, this is a forgiveness that benefits 45 million Americans, 40% of whom didn't actually even finish their degree, right? So there's a lot of people.
They're all working at Starbucks.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people without college degrees that are significantly benefited from this student loan forgiveness. And
So-
there's you know.
whenever I talk to you, I always hear like you have these. You're obviously very educated on this stuff more than me, and I think I can keep up at least kinda. At least I hope I can. I mean, I'm not educated on it, but I think I'm at least smart enough to know what you're saying most of the time. But the overall impression that I get of pretty much all of your prescriptions is that it's everything that you're saying, it will work if people have a lot of confidence in the system, but then it's going to require like a lot of fine tuning of all the various different knobs of government to make sure things actually run smoothly. But the potential for absolute disaster is reasonably high, especially if people stop. For example, if there's no faith in the American institution anymore and people aren't buying bonds
Yeah.
anymore, it seems like it'd be a very rapid collapse. All the things
Well,
that you're
we can
talking
look
about.
at yeah. I mean, essentially, what you're describing is development economics, right? So, like, how do economic prescriptions change if you've got weaker institutions, or institutions that I suppose have maybe they're relatively new, or they're under threat or something like that. That's development economics, right? And so your prescriptions are going to change a little bit, right? The type of prescriptions you would advocate for a developing country are necessarily different from a developing country. And similarly, if a country has weaker institutions, that'll be different from a country with stronger institutions. But what I told I had a debate with a guy from our conservative the other day on stream, right? And essentially what I told the conservative audience there was that like I just try to read the studies and research and do what I think works, right? It's not about socialism or capitalism. It's just about whatever works, right? And what works is what makes most people better off, right? And so that's what I at least tend to argue for. And so that's what I advocate for, right? And so when I advocate for things like a welfare state that distributes income and taxes that lower income inequality and maybe student loan forgiveness is another example, universal healthcare, those are all things that I've tried to do enough research on and just try to follow what what empirically works, what demonstrably works, and the things that I'm describing. Probably less so with student loan forgiveness because it's kind of a first of its kind of thing. But all the other things that I've talked about throughout this time, it just works. It works if you care about alleviating poverty and leading to people being happy, I guess.
Yeah, fair enough. I know in Canada what we do is we have like there's no student loan forgiveness here necessarily, but you pay a lot less on your taxes if you pay back your student loans. And so basically if you pay back like $5,000 of your student loans this year, that's $5,000 less taxes you got to pay. It's something like that here.
Yeah, we've had interest deductions for student loans for a while, and we've also had public service student loan forgiveness for a while in America. And so we're not totally, certainly student loan forgiveness isn't completely foreign to the American government either.
Mm-hmm. All right, but you two got to go, and I've got to go have dinner because I'm probably doing another stream later tonight. But in the evening, I stream non-politics stuff. I just like kind of hang out and play games. So I like to keep the two projects segregated because some people just want to hang out and play games and not talk about the stuff. Yeah, I understand that. Everyone needs downtime,
True.
So I'm gonna go and eat some dinner, and then probably stream some video games about 2 hours. And Lilith, you got to go out to do your thing.
I'm gonna try to stream tomorrow on my own Twitch channel. If people want to watch, people can.
Yeah, you do like Sunday night streams, eh? You do like.
I try to when I'm not feeling like shit.
Maybe you should. Maybe you should just go rest.
I'm power through it though. I wanna play games for people. I wanna play games.
Yeah.
But yeah, I gotta get ready.
Okay.
Thanks everybody, and thank you Econoboi,
Yeah.
and thank you Dev.
Good talking.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you guys later.
Okay, see ya.
Yeah, see you. You're always welcome. And see you, chat. Take care.
See you later, guys. Okay. Right at the end, Artemis Fowl. The bond market is collapsing. Hold on. So, I know the Econoboi streams are generally my my least popular streams, but Econoboy's my friend. I think he's quite intelligent, even though we disagree on many things. I always enjoy talking to him. I'm going to start something up, guys. I know that we've been hit and miss on us actually being available to do TubCasts. I might change things up. I'm going to start some sort of more regular than once a week stream. And it's going to be Basically a show where I give a bunch of my friends who are all like relatively knowledgeable about certain things special roles in my Discord that can jump in and talk about things. So Econoboi will be on there. Econoboi will be on there. Taftadge will be on there. Obviously Arch and Kibs. If Sargon ever joins my Discord, I'll give him a role. But basically, it's going to be like an open season to just have Devon friends on the stream. And I've given a bunch of people. It's the orange role in my Discord. The orange role is going to be converted into the Devon friends role for whenever I do. So I want to expand my streaming a bit more. I think that's my plan. Who's currently the orange role? Actually, let's just check it out. Who's currently in there? Yeah, a few IRL friends is in there. Discordia's in there. My dry bread is in there. Yeah, Lilith, of course. Naomi's in there. But yeah, basically, I'm gonna set up like a role for friends who can come on the stream whenever they like. I think it might be fun. But I'm getting out of here, guys. Thanks very much. I love you.